PDX, the future of building is here.
KFXX, KWJJ, HD2, Portland. An Odyssey sports station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, only one more sleep until number 1 Oregon faces number 3 Penn State in the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis. The Ducks are 3.5-point favorites. 5 o'clock kick on CBS. Live coverage right here on The Fan. Starts with Ducks at game day at 1 o'clock with Dirt, Dusty, and Anthony Newman. Number 20 UNLV at Albertson Stadium to face number 10 Boise State for the Mountain West Championship tonight. That's a 5 o'clock kick on Fox. And Tulane in West Point facing number 24 Army for the American Athletic Championship. That is also a 5 o'clock kick, but on ABC. Tomorrow, we've got some college football on 910 ESPN Portland. First, 8 a.m., number 15 Arizona State and number 16 Iowa State in the Big 12 Championship game in Arlington at Jerry's World. And then at 4 o'clock, number 8 SMU and number 17 Clemson in the ACC title game in Charlotte. On the hard court, the Trailblazers back in action tonight, hosting the Jazz. 7 o'clock tip on K2 Channel 2.2 and Xfinity Channel 302. Donovan Clingan, Robert Williams III, Matisse Thybulle all out. Scoot Henderson is questionable due to a quad contusion. The Blazers are 2.5-point favorites. And the Portland Pilots in Ohio to take on the Golden Flashes of Kent State. 4 o'clock tip on ESPN+. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 3:30. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
This is your home for year-round NFL coverage. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan. A new conference, a new standard.
If you are Oregon, who do you want? Ohio State, Indiana, or Penn State? We went through, I think there's only one scenario where Penn State gets in.
This is a Big Ten Championship Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by Mods PDX, the future of building is here. Online at modspdx.com.
Holden comes in from the left, sets up, turn. It's going to be a pass. Gabriel could run. He runs. He scores! Touchdown, Oregon!
Big Ten Championship Week with Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
What is up, sports fans? Happy Friday. No Danny, no Dusty. Stoked, though, to be here filling in with Will Ortner again on 1080 The Fan. And Merry Christmas to everybody as well. I'm that guy. I started saying it right after Thanksgiving. Dusty he was a little taken aback when I called him last week for the Ducks postgame scoreboard show, but I was convincing, and he was like, you know what? I like that argument, Schultze. But welcome on in. Merry Christmas to everybody. Good to be in on a Friday.
Do you for sure wait until December 1st? You actually wait until December 1st for Christmas? Because
no.
I have talked about this. I'm in a war right now with China.
You personally?
Yes. She's my sister-in-law. That's her name.
I was going to say China.
Yes, China. She is my wonderful sister-in-law who is, now that she is a part of the family, she's making a purpose pitch. She is trying to take over the family. And I brought this up before.
Yeah.
On November 1st, there was a text sent into the family group chat that it was now Christmas. And there would be a break on the Thursday of Thanksgiving. And then it was back to Christmas. So I have to make sure, because I like Christmas. I enjoy spending time with my family. I enjoy that part of it.
Okay.
I hate the oversaturation of Christmas. Like, the minute that it's November, all of a sudden it's Christmas all the time.
You wouldn't want to come over to my house
It
then,
gets
buddy.
to the point, like, are you playing Christmas music in November?
Yeah, November 2nd. I didn't play it November 1st because we had a Halloween party the day after Halloween. By the way, that's Will Ortner, Jeff Rust here as well. Good to sit in with you. Thank you, Jeff, for doing all the heavy lifting and allowing Mr. Ortner and I to come in with you. But yeah, I am the creepy, like, as soon as midnight hits on November 2nd this year, I started playing Christmas music. And I think the first song that I listened to was good old, like, Perry Como. So...
Oh, there we go. Good old, yeah. Well, yeah.
Is that the name of the song?
No, that's the artist.
Singer.
My bad.
Oh, yeah. See, like, to me, it's all Michael Bublé.
Oh, of course.
And then Mariah Carey gets one, and Wham has their song.
Wham's got theirs, yeah.
Bublé just hit 1 billion plays on Spotify. So
there's the old, and also, do they know it's Christmas? You know?
Oh,
one,
yeah, the African, like, feed the world,
exactly.
let them know it's Christmas
You got your
time.
Run DMC and a little Christmas in Hollis.
Run DMC has a Christmas song?
Yes.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Haven't you ever seen Die Hard?
No.
Well, A, you need to watch that. Beautiful. It is a Christmas movie, and I will never, ever stray off of that point. In fact, my wife, we watched it recently, and she pointed out about every 2 to 5 minutes, there was a Christmas mention in that movie, and that song
This
is
is the
in that
song
movie.
in the movie? Huh.
Well, it's not just in that movie. It was played in that movie, and Bruce Willis is like, don't you get any Christmas music? And the limo driver said, this is Christmas music.
Oh, well, look, man, it's on the list. I said it earlier on this show, one of the times I was filling in. During football season, all I listen to, all I watch is football. Then once football's done, that's when, like, TV shows start coming back in. That's when movies start coming back in. Like, Gladiator 2 drops at the perfect time.
Yeah.
I'm jacked up to see it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see it till next weekend.
Wait, so did you really just say you've not seen Die Hard? Is that what I heard you say, or am I
Will,
taking crazy pills?
No, I haven't seen Die Hard.
Oh,
I've seen
my
parts.
God. You're missing it.
And it's like on TNT. It doesn't count.
Yippee-ki-yay,
I
mother
know.
trucker.
I understand it. He's like crawling through the duct. I understand
That's
that I'm
one
wrong.
part of like a
Again,
2-hour movie.
That's the part that I've seen.
You know, one of the things that I've always
I
loved,
know,
though, one of the
I
little
know.
trivial tidbits of that movie is that the end of it, not to ruin it for you, even though it's, a 35-year-old
You can spoil
movie
it.
now.
I'll still watch it. and
Yeah.
enjoy it. It'll be okay.
When they let
Breaking news.
when Hans Gruber falls off the building,
Oh, yes.
Alan Rickman apparently deathly afraid of heights.
yes.
Deathly afraid of heights. And so they told him in that scene, they said, okay, well, we're going to drop you on the count of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to 1, 2, and drop him. And so that look on his face is
Pure terror?
absolute sheer terror.
Genuine
that was
fear.
not acting.
That's fantastic. As a person who is also afraid of heights, I get the irony. There's
Ditto.
nothing more terrifying than being within like 30 feet of a ledge. Like I can't sit.
I don't
at
like
the-
walking over overpasses.
I can't sit
hate that
on
too.
like on the edge of the second deck at like Moda Center. Like I couldn't do that. I couldn't be at a Mariners game and be like right on the railing. Like I gotta buy first level tickets. There's no Ferris wheel. Like I remember one time I was forced
Mhm.
to ride on that stupid death trap of a Ferris wheel in Seattle. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Where
it has
you're-
candy canes on it right now. I was just there.
Does it
I
have
saw
candy canes?
It does.
Okay, those are candy canes of death because you're over the water, and so there's a part of you in your brain where you're like, if I fall, at least I fall in the water. But then you remember that the water is basically concrete, and it shakes the whole time. There's no point of it where you're like, I'm in a stable place. You're constantly shaking and hoping not to die. And I went on it because I was like, it won't be that bad. Like, I'm afraid of heights, but like, I'm locked in this thing. And then I realized you can see through the bottom. It's all glass. Don't do that. I'm sweating right now talking about it. I hate that stupid thing. I can't believe I got tricked into doing
It's
it.
little freaky.
just another reason to not go to Seattle.
Well, I love Seattle.
Well, Pike's Place was
Yeah,
fine.
my
and
Mariners, Pikes, yeah.
I enjoyed that.
A lot of good
I
restaurants.
enjoyed the Seahawks game.
I
but
hate driving around there. That is a horrible city for driving.
Well, that's why.
that's true.
Yeah, that's why you
Well, all
park
c-
at your hotel and you Uber because
all
yeah, it
cities
sucks.
all cities are bad though. Like, is there a good city to drive in? Like Portland, I feel like is on the better end of it, and I hate driving in Portland.
Well, because like it feels like even here the city center, rough area doesn't seem as big as trying to drive around in what Seattle's city center would be.
True. Well,
Does
and
that make sense?
it's sneaky hilly too.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
you
Seattle,
don't
yeah.
realize how many hills are all around that place. It's not fun.
Used-
And we were over there during the ice storm. Like that also could have been part of it. Like there was ice everywhere on the stupid Ferris wheel. I did not enjoy it. The amount of times that I fell on my butt, not cool.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but
No, and it was so much worse.
I'd like
it
to
was,
see that.
yeah, me
well,
too.
hold on. Let me make it worse for myself. It was like the first getaway with a girl at the time, so it's like really trying
Even
to.
better.
Again, I can go on a Ferris wheel. I'm not afraid of heights. The whole time, death grip on the table.
Do you want to hold my hand? No,
Nope,
it's shaking.
nope,
I'm
don't,
good.
Don't leave me alone. No, I'm not
Oh,
scared.
man.
You think I'm scared, but I'm not.
It is actually
A
pretty
lot
funny.
of gaslighting. Yeah.
That's true. It is pretty funny when you go to Seattle and you kind of walk up a couple of blocks and you're like, oh, I'm in San Francisco all of a sudden. There are quite a few
Is San
hills
Francisco
there.
the same?
Well, San Francisco is literally
Yeah,
streets of hills
very
when you
hilly.
get into downtown.
Yes.
So, well, you're not as well traveled as I thought you were, man. You have played college football
I'm
at the
well
Division
traveled.
II level. You've traveled all through the West Coast,
I
up
have.
and down,
I
over
have.
into the far ends of the Pacific Northwest. How the hell do you not know San Francisco's
Well,
hilly?
no, but here's the thing. There's no D2 teams in San Francisco. I've gone to a lot of these places, but again, it's D2 football.
I know.
So you fly into Kansas City and then you drive 3 hours to Boulevard.
To the tiny little hole in the ground.
You fly into San Antonio and then you drive 3 hours into Kingsville. So I've been to a lot of big cities. I just have spent no time in them. I've spent a lot of time in like Clovis, New Mexico.
Yeah.
Or Silver City, New Mexico, which by the way is higher than Denver.
I've been in
Have
Silver
fun
City.
trying to play a football game in that.
Do you guys have oxygen or not at the D2 level?
We did the second time we played there. We did not the first time.
That was a
lesson-
mistake.
That was a lesson learned. But yeah, I don't know. I want to travel more. It's on the list of things I want to do.
Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, obviously, speaking of traveling, Dusty is gone because he is traveling, going with the Oregon Ducks to Indianapolis, the Big Ten Championship this weekend. Of course, it's a branded conference championship week here on 1080 The Fan. And, Will, you and I are lucky enough to be here on a Yacht Rock Friday with Jeff Rust. So I'm cool with the Yacht Rock music. But yeah, like I said, I've been listening to Christmas since November 2nd. I'd be just as happy if it were all Christmas music at this point.
What's your top Christmas song?
That's not everybody, so I get it. Probably the Christmas song by Mel Torme and Nat King Cole. Chestnuts roasting on an open
There you go.
fire.
Little Mel Torme.
Well, that's who wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the
I just remember
Velvet Frog.
My original introduction to Mel Torme was from was it Night Court?
Yes, I
Yes.
believe he did a starring or a guest starring role on Night Court.
Yeah, well,
That's
and he was a
correct.
frequent topic of conversation
Yeah.
too from old Judge Harry Stone.
What's your top go-to?
Yeah, what are you guys' top Christmas songs?
I enjoy some Harry Connick Jr. Christmas tunes.
Mm.
He's got the good old velvety voice, and then you got your Wham, of course,
Yeah. I haven't been whammed yet.
and
I'm
then
pretty proud of that.
and then I think an underrated one, perhaps it's not underrated, perhaps it's properly rated, but is The Boss. Just the old Merry Christmas, baby.
Yeah, he's all messing around with his
Oh.
band. Hey, is Santa gonna bring you a new saxophone?
Gotta love The Boss.
Yes,
Oh.
it's not too bad. What about you, Will?
Me? I don't know. I like to go off the beaten path. I don't like. It's not that I don't like the Bublé because Bublé can clearly sing.
Yeah.
But it becomes.
And I kind of sound like him, so if you
It's
don't like
the
Bublé, you don't
same-
like me.
It's not that I don't like him. It's that every year I hear the same thing over and over again, and it annoys me.
But
Which is,
There's a reason for that.
I know. Like, look, I get that I'm wrong.
No, I don't think that you're
Like,
wrong.
It's just I've gotten sick of him. I've gotten to the point where I'm tired of listening to Bublé's Christmas songs because I've heard it over and over and over again. So I really enjoy when like a random crew comes out, but I also want them to do their own thing. Like I don't need to hear Darius Rucker singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
I do. I love that.
I want Darius
love
Rucker
Darius
to.
Rucker.
I like Darius Rucker too, but I want him to create his own song.
I just discovered he had like 2 whole Christmas albums. I am a Hootie
I
and the
didn't know that.
Blowfish super fan, and it popped up on like my Apple Music, and I'm like,
I knew
what,
he had
Darius
one.
Rucker?
I saw them in concert once when I was in college. They opened for Toad the Wet Sprocket up in Tacoma.
I'm
I
assuming
actually
they're
know
way
both
more
of those
famous than that band.
No, I actually know of Toad the Wet.
What the hell? Some local Pacific Northwest music fair here.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no.
you should check out
He's
the
good
old
luck.
Harry Connick Jr. though.
I think I think that was one from Mom as well. Like,
Yeah.
I think my mom was playing a lot of his stuff. Like, you can't say that Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" is your
Yeah.
favorite song. Like, you instantly get judged. You
It's
can't
fair.
do that. That's like saying your favorite Bon Jovi song is "Living on a Prayer." Like, oh, I'm a Bon Jovi super fan.
Yeah.
I love "Living on a Prayer."
No, it's
like, no, you got to pick a different song.
Wanted.
Great
God.
song.
Dead or alive.
Great song.
Yeah, I'm not as big of a Bon Jovi fan as y'all. But it is interesting to see the origins of Christmas music and how all that stuff hasn't really changed. Actually, gosh, maybe 5 or 6 days ago was reading a pretty extensive article just about the story of why Christmas songs are the way that they are. And we're still listening to Andy Williams, and it's the most wonderful time of the year. We're literally, as you say, Will, hearing that same song over and over. And it's because a lot of those songs came out of an era when World War II was happening, and all of that togetherness, all of that feeling, that we were having while all this tumultuous crap was going around, the rest of the world, having this sentiment here at home and thinking of, the brothers and the dads that were overseas and the ones that didn't come back. Just a lot of really close feelings to this holiday were built in the 40s to 50s, and since that nostalgia has stuck around since then, there's really no interest for people, apparently other than you,
I was
Will,
gonna say, so
for new
apparently
songs.
you're saying that I'm a piece of garbage. I'm a
No,
communist,
not a
and
piece-
I don't want our country to succeed.
Not a piece
That
of
is
garbage.
that is what I took from that. Look, I'm gonna fully lean into this. Adam Sandler's Hanukkah
Hanukkah
song.
song?
That's
There we
my
go.
favorite one.
Absolutely,
That's
yeah.
my favorite holiday song.
I was going to say, too, I think perhaps also underappreciated the old Christmas Vacation theme by Mavis Staples.
Oh, yes. If you
Yes.
want to throw that in today, Rust, I am A-okay with that. I think that technically qualifies as yacht rock. Yeah, the beginning of that movie
Yeah.
is really good. All right, we could keep having fun
have
talking
actually
about
seen that
Christmas
movie.
movies and Christmas. Wait, what?
I have.
You have seen that movie.
I
I was
have
just
seen
like,
that
you
movie.
haven't
Yeah.
seen that
Nope,
one?
I've seen
You're
that one.
coming over to my house. We're having beers and you're watching it. Well,
seen
I'll
it.
invite everybody.
Did we just become best friends?
I think we did. It happened. All right, guys. Yeah, we could keep talking about Christmas movies and Christmas music, Black Friday shopping, all kinds of stuff from the last couple of weeks. But we do have a busy day of actual sports talk, chocked full of some good topics, so we should probably get to that. Coming up, a future Hall of Famer reportedly interviewing for college football coaching jobs. We'll get into that. Also, diving into all things, Oregon versus Penn State, previewing the Big Ten championship game. We'll get a little check-in with the Portland Trail Blazers, as well as a couple of other fun things planned. But first, Will, is Super Bowl 59 Detroit's to lose? We're going to come back with that answer coming up next. Schulte and Will sitting in for Danny and Dusty today. Rusty doing all the heavy lifting here on Sports Radio 1080 The Fan. Schulte and Will in for Danny and Dusty. Rusty here as well. Starting off with Thursday Night Football. What a freaking barn burner, Will. The Detroit Lions handling the Green Bay Packers in a pivotal, I'll just make up new words, pivotal NFC North matchup, 34-31 at Ford Field, clinching a playoff berth for the second consecutive season. Actually, the first time they did that since 1995. Detroit going just about 30 years in between times where they made the playoffs back-to-back years. And they did it in one of the gutsiest ways possible, going for it on fourth down to keep Green Bay from getting the ball back to try a game-tying field goal. Here's what Coach Dan Campbell had to say about it after the game.
I just felt like we needed to end it on offense, and I did not want to give that ball back, and I believed we could get that. I believed we could convert, and I trusted that O-line. I trusted David, and they came through for us. It's a hell of a call by Ben, It just I knew how I wanted to play this game. The team knew it, and everything in me told me that let's finish this, and so we did.
Another win for the Fighting Dan Campbells. Of course, that marks their 12th win of the year, sitting at 12-1. Yeah, well, tied at 31 last night. It was a great back-and-forth game. It looked like they were starting to get a little tired because, of course, Detroit is pretty banged up on the defensive side of the ball, pretty depleted after losing even a couple of guys during the game, second and third quarter, before they got one of their defensive tackles back. Detroit just acted like a championship caliber team. They stepped up in the biggest moment of the game, and it was, in my mind, kind of like that moment of the year type where you've seen them win in other ways, but then seeing them win in a barn burner back and forth contest like this, Will, it just shows how clutch the Detroit Lions actually are.
Well, I love that Dan Campbell hasn't wavered. Like, he is a guy who is going to ask the dealer to hit me when he has 19.
Hell yeah.
Like, that is what he's going to do. And if that is your MO, I get the same kind of defensiveness about Dan Lanning. People get upset when Dan Lanning goes for it on fourth down and then he doesn't get it, right? He doesn't get it deep in his zone. In this game, the Lions, they went for it on 4th and 1, and they didn't get it deep in their zone. And that set Green Bay up for a touchdown drive that gave Green Bay the lead. But that didn't defer, or that didn't make Campbell second guess himself. He just said, that's fine. We didn't get that one. We're going to get the next one, and we're going to keep going with our foot on the gas. If you are a conservative coach, be a conservative coach. If you are an aggressive coach, be an aggressive coach. Where you get into problems is when you're like a Brandon Staley, or Sirianni has this issue at times with Philadelphia, where sometimes he's conservative, sometimes he's aggressive. And if you're going to go by the numbers, you need to go by the numbers the entire time. It's the law of big numbers. If, it says go for it on 4th and 1, you need to go for it every single time you get to 4th and 1, and Campbell does that. This Lions team has done a great job. They have built the offensive line to be their powerhouse. Obviously, everyone talks about Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell, for my money, is the best right tackle in football right now. What he can do in pass protection, what he can do run blocking, and then the fact that they can get him out in space, and at times he's running away from David Montgomery, and he's running stride for stride with Gibbs. There aren't many O-line players ever. There's few O-linemen that can do that, and you have a truly special one. Then you go in and you look at like Ragnow at center. That dude is a warrior.
Oh, my God.
The block that I remember is in the playoffs where he falls to his knees and he's still driving the defensive lineman back while he's on his knees. It's one of the more impressive blocks as an O-lineman that I've ever seen. So when you just look at this team, they're aggressive by nature, and they're able to be aggressive by nature because of the offensive line that they have built, where they know we can run the football with Montgomery or we can run it with Gibbs, and we're going to be okay. And they play by the numbers, and they trust that if they do it enough times, it's going to work out positively, more likely than not for them. I love it, man. They had to have this game.
Yeah.
They had to have it. Because when you look at this playoff picture, right now it's between them and the Eagles for home field. It is a much bigger deal for the Lions to have every game in that dome than it is for the Eagles to have home field and for the Lions to have to go and play on the road, not in a dome. Can you imagine them going to Philadelphia late January, trying to play that championship game? It's a lot easier at Ford Field than it would be at the Link.
I love Jared Goff. He's been one of the best quarterbacks since 2021 in the NFL. But, SoCal boy going into a cold playoff type of atmosphere, yeah, I'm not sure that Detroit would be feeling very good, or at least as good as they were last night. And will you talk about the offensive line? I noticed that first touchdown by David Montgomery, he had like 6 or 7 feet of like a wide hole right into the end zone from about 4 yards out. It looked like Green Bay's defensive line couldn't even challenge it. So yeah, I agree. Their offensive line as a whole, obviously led by Penei Sewell, got to be tops in the league, and that is what allows them to be aggressive. They have that short-handed defense right now, unfortunately, just from Aiden Hutchinson, all the way through. You've basically been dealing with a lot of losses on the defensive side throughout the season, but you can, because you have that good, staunch offensive line, lean on your offense a little bit more. Be more aggressive with that offense, and your defense can give up some points like they did last night, and you can still come out on top if if Dan Campbell trusts his offensive line, in which case that last, I know people are pissed about that first fourth down call that he didn't get, but that second fourth down call that they got, that took cojones and it took trust in that offensive line.
You also have to hope with the defense that they get healthy at the right time. Like Anzalone is their starting middle linebacker. He broke his arm. He's been out for a little bit. He should be coming back right around playoff time. You might get him for a week or two in the regular season so he can build up. That's going to make a big difference. The play that sticks out in my mind is right now, Quan Alexander. He's the linebacker that they picked up, and he is replacing Anzalone for better or worse terms, right? On one of the big Kraft interceptions, it wasn't his touchdown, but it led to a Josh Jacobs rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
He is supposed to be guarded by Alexander. Alexander is looking in the backfield. He is lost, and it's because he doesn't understand his assignment. Now, some of that is because Alexander is a new player on the team. He's only been there for a couple weeks, so he doesn't have that playbook memorized like the back of his hand like Anzalone would, and Anzalone would know who his guy in coverage was and would stay with him. But also, Anzalone has proven time in and time again that he can do his job to the highest level, where Quan Alexander, he is a very good backup linebacker, and he has had multiple stops where he's been a starting linebacker and he's been good in those spots. He's just not the same as Anzalone. So once they can get Anzalone back, because I don't think you're going to get Hutchinson back. Like, if you could get Hutchinson back, that's the biggest get for that defense. But your second biggest get is Anzalone. You're going to get him back. And so I do think that this defense will continue to improve. You also have to remember, that's your starting middle linebacker. That's the quarterback of your defense. He's setting everybody in the right spot. He's setting everything up. And so right now you're working with a guy because of the different injuries that you've had at that linebacker position, because it's not just Anzalone who's gone out. You have a guy who's coming off the street who's doing his best, but it's not the same as having someone who's been in there since August, right? Also,
of course,
I think the Packers have a legit shot to win the NFC. To be able to spot Detroit, 10 points at the end of the first half, you're down 7-17, and come back and fight and legitimately have a shot at winning this game, and you were up at multiple different points, and you didn't lose it because you played badly. You lost it because Detroit played just a little bit better than you. I now think more highly of Green Bay than I did going into this game. I legitimately think if Jordan Love cannot turn the football over, this is a team that it would not surprise me if they were in the NFC Championship game or even in the Super Bowl. If they can run the football the way they have been with Josh Jacobs and they can get a couple things to go their way, why couldn't they be that third or fourth team, like that dark horse team that reaches up and beats a Philadelphia or beats a Detroit in the playoffs?
So to wrap this up, you're basically saying that no, Super Bowl 59 is not yet Detroit's to lose because the Eagles, the Packers, the Vikings, even if they continue to play at the clip they've been playing, and by the way, 2 of those 3 teams are in the NFC North with them. So it's obviously a very hard-fought divisional contest. I mean, and they're all within a couple of games of each other with 3 weeks to play now, or 4 weeks technically for the Packers and Vikings. But really, outside of those 3 teams, do you see anyone else? Let's throw Kansas City out. Do you see anybody in the NFC able to compete with them going through the playoffs, or no?
In the NFC, I would throw out Minnesota. I don't think that Minnesota has the longevity. I'm very impressed with what they've done in the regular season. I think they probably win a playoff game. But I think when it comes to, do you have the horses? I don't know that they have the horses to compete with Detroit, with Philadelphia. And again, Green Bay, Jordan Love has to limit his turnovers because he's got a little bit of Brett Favre in him. He's closer to Brett Favre than he is to Aaron Rodgers, right? He is going to turn the ball over because he's a gunslinger. So you have to get Jordan Love in the right spot. You have to get him in a game like this where he doesn't turn the ball over. Now, you'd like his completion percentage to be a little bit higher. You'd like him to be more like he was in the second half than he was in the first half, where he only had like 3 completions. But he turns that into a 12 for 20 performance. When I look at the NFL as a whole right now, to me, the team that I think is the favorite is Buffalo. I like the way that Josh Allen is playing because much of the way that I'm just talking about Jordan Love when it comes to turnover issues, that's Josh Allen. Except this year, he doesn't have those turnovers. He only has a couple interceptions. He only has a couple fumbles. Now, he had a couple of those fumbles in a big game against Baltimore on a Sunday night. So that's something that may worry me a little bit. But again, you want to talk about getting healthier? They just got their starting middle linebacker, Matt Milano, back. And he had been gone for most of the year. That defense is playing lights out right now. But I think the most important thing about this Buffalo team is they have a counterpunch to Josh Allen. The last couple of years, it's been Josh Allen, and he's chucking it up to Davis or he's chucking it up to Diggs, and you're hoping that the other team can't cover them. You run into Kansas City, where they have the secondary to cover those two, and they fall short. This year, you're finally using that big offensive line, and you're trusting Cook to run the football. You're using that 12 personnel formation where you can get Kincaid and you can get Dalton Knox in those formations where, one, they're both really good run blockers from that tight end position. Yeah. But more importantly, they're matchup nightmares when you're talking about the passing game. And so you've taken away Josh Allen's turnovers, but you've also given defenses more things to worry about because you truly do have to worry about their run game. So to me, right now, if you told me that Kansas City drops another game or two and the rest of the AFC has to go through Buffalo with Bills Mafia, that's a home field advantage that few can compare to. And it just feels like it might finally be their time. Like, this was supposed to be a reloading year. This was supposed to be the year where they were like that 4th seed. They won the division, but they barely did. And they were closer to 500 than they were to getting, the first round bye. And right now, I just feel like they're a hot team and it's finally kind of their turn.
I like Buffalo. I'm hesitant because I've seen Josh Allen's year so far. It's been great, but I am willing to run through a wall for Dan Campbell. Like, I want to be on the Fighting Dan Campbells at this point. And I do think that they are, at least in my opinion, one of the teams that is not guaranteed a Super Bowl, but has a much better chance than everybody else. Not just really because of their win over Green Bay, but how they've won all season, beating the Seahawks down, beating the Cowboys down, scoring 50 over the Titans and the Jaguars, and then winning in close games as well. It just doesn't matter how they have to do it. The Fighting Dan Campbells can get it done, and I'm rooting for them to get it done. And I truly believe their offense is well poised to be able to be leaned on and go all the way this season. It's Detroit's window right now, and they have a head coach that seemingly will do anything to take advantage of it. So let's see if they can clinch that number 1 seed in the NFC. Just 3 weeks for them remaining in the regular season. But we got to switch gears from one NFL team to a former coach of another. Multiple reports stating that former Patriots coach Bill Belichick is interviewing for a college job. We'll tell you where coming up next, but first, here's Russ with SportsCenter.
This is Big Ten Championship Week with Denny and Dusty.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your SportsCenter update. First on the Fan, only one more sleep until number 1 Oregon faces number 3 Penn State in the Big Ten championship game from Indianapolis. The Ducks 3.5-point favorites. 5 o'clock kick tomorrow night on CBS. Live coverage here on the Fan starts with Ducks game day at 1 o'clock with Dirt, Dusty, and Anthony Newman. Coming up tonight, number 20 UNLV at Albertson Stadium to face number 10 Boise State for the Mountain West Championship. That's a 5 o'clock kick on Fox. And Tulane in West Point facing number 24 Army for the American Athletic title. That one's 5 o'clock on ABC. We do have some college football tomorrow on 910 ESPN Portland. First up, 8 a.m., number 15 Arizona State and number 16 Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game in Arlington at Jerry's World. And then at 4 o'clock, number 8 SMU and number 17 Clemson in the ACC title game in Charlotte. The Trailblazers are back at it tonight, hosting the Jazz. 7 o'clock tip on K2 Channel 2.2 and Xfinity Channel 302. Donovan Clingan, Robert Williams III, Matisse Thybulle are all out. Scoot Henderson questionable due to a quad contusion. The Blazers are 2.5-point favorites. We got round 2 of the Hero World Challenge from Albany Golf Club in the Bahamas. Scotty Scheffler all alone in first place. He is 8 under on the day, 13 under overall, 3 strokes clear of Akshay Bhatia. Keegan Bradley tied for third at 9 under par. Patrick Cantlay, Ludwig Oberg at 8 under par. Wyndham Clark, the former Oregon Duck, he is 1 under. And Jason Day, 19th out of the 20-player field at 1 over par. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Aztec.
We've got a whole hour plus of Oregon Ducks Penn State talk, as well as some college football playoff previewing, some conference championship weekend previews coming up as well. But before we get to all that, I had to address this bit of news actually involving somebody that probably really likes this kind of music. I would assume he's got yacht rock blasting all around his car, all around his house.
First off, everybody loves Chuck Mangione.
I mean, that is true. But I think of an old man with his
He's the
20.
man.
I think of an
Gione.
Nice. We got there.
I think of an old man with his 26-year-old girlfriend being like, "Hey, this is a good vibe, right? Like riding around in the car." 24. Excuse me.
How dare you age her?
Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Cruising around with the top down in the old Mazda Miata.
Well, yeah, she might.
She's younger than me.
She might have some competition too.
His girlfriend is 3 years younger than me.
That's insane. She has my first name too. Her name is Jordan. So
Spelled
isn't
the
that
same?
weird? No, it's spelled with an A. That would be really frightening if it were spelled with an O. My mom did that. She's told me to distinguish my name on paper as a boy. I don't know. Anyways, but the man that likes that kind of music, I'm sure, that would be former Patriots coach Bill Belichick. Could you picture him as a college football coach? Well, the University of North Carolina certainly can. They have reportedly interviewed Belichick to be their next head coach after firing Mac Brown in his second stint with the Tar Heels. Belichick, of course, with the Pats for 24 seasons, won 6 Super Bowls with them, 2 Super Bowl winning teams that he was a part of with the New York Giants as a defensive coordinator as well. Obviously, all kinds of accolades for Belichick. Never coached in college, but his dad was a longtime assistant at the U.S. Naval Academy. So it's something that I would assume he's familiar with. Like, he's done work around like high schools and stuff like that. But, you know, you also heard him in that Patriots documentary insulting Patriots players whenever he got a chance. Like, this kid at high school could make that play. So it makes you...
That's a classic. That's just a football coach's thing. Like, when I was at Central, it was always, you couldn't play at Kittitas High School. You couldn't play at Ellsworth. That's a classic college, NFL. That's a football coach's thing. That's whatever you can make fun of a high school that a college player certainly could play at. They're going to make fun of that. So the rumor around this one that's getting kind of thrown out there is that he would take it and he would bring Steve over with him, who's the DC at UW, and then within 2 or 3 years, Bill would hand it off to Steve.
Kind of a legacy deal, yeah.
Steve would then take it over. That's the rumor of why it would be enticing to Bill. I think it would be a very weird move for a college to move on from one old football coach to go grab an even older football coach. That doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, Mac's also in his early 70s.
Steve also, I mean, he's only been at UW for a year. He's mostly in the NFL ranks. I haven't heard of him being like the greatest recruiter of all time, something that is pretty important. Not saying that he couldn't do it.
You think Bill Belichick with NIL money, though, would even have to work hard to recruit?
I think Steve would. If
I
you're
think he wouldn't want to work hard to recruit.
Well, I don't think he would have to.
Well, but again, if you're hiring Bill, you're really hiring Steve. You're hiring Bill so that he can teach Steve and give Steve the ropes, and then he can go off into the sunset.
Yeah.
You're not hiring Bill and like, you know what, in 5 years, we might be playing in this 12-team playoff. What UNC, a lot of the college football like experts that I listen to, they talk about UNC being a sleeping giant. Like they have all this money, and it sounds like a lot of the brass at UNC want to become not just a basketball power, they want to become a football power too. Now, there's still going to be more money is going to go to basketball. That is what they're known for. That's what they care about. But they know that if they don't want to get left out of, the next realignment, because that is coming, you have to care about football. See what Indiana has done with Curt Cignetti.
Yeah.
They threw a bunch of money at him and his staff after he had some success because they know they need to keep building. So it would not shock me if UNC goes out and makes a splashy hire. It also wouldn't shock me if there's a lot of coaches who are either high-name offensive or defensive coordinators, or maybe, like the Tulane coach, Summerall. That might be a spot that Summerall might want to end up at. You're going to have a lot of money, but you're not going to have the same expectations that you might have at, say, an Ohio State or, a more traditional power. Yeah. I think UNC might be a better spot than necessarily like a Nebraska. UNC would have more money, but they're going to have less of the demand to win, less of boosters who are trying to mess everything up and get the guys that they want playing as you would as like a Nebraska, right? And so you might see a lot of top-end coaches trying to get this job. to me, I don't feel like the Belichick move makes sense. If Steve was more proven, if like this last UW recruiting class came in, because you just had early signing day, and everyone was like, look at the top 3 recruits. They were all got here because of what Steve did. Then I might be more inclined, hey, let him learn under his dad for another year or 2. His dad will kind of help show him the ropes of the coaching side. You bring in an OC who's a nails recruiter, right? Obviously, you would hope they wouldn't bring in a Will Stein, but a Will Stein type of recruiter.
Yeah.
And he can learn the recruiting side from him. Maybe that makes sense. But to me, right now, when I look at this, I don't see why you hired Bill Belichick. It doesn't make sense to me. From UNC's point.
To look at some of the other names really quickly, of course, you did throw out Tulane's John Summerall. Also, Iowa State's Matt Campbell, Georgia defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann, former Arizona Cardinals head coach and Panthers interim coach in the NFL Steve Wilkes has been thrown around. They did initially make a big push for former Tar Heel Arthur Smith, who's the coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, offensive coordinator, of course, former Falcons head coach, but he turned them down, said he was not a candidate. So Belichick is one of at least 5, 6, or 7 major names here that we're talking about. But as far as the position goes, if I'm an AD, it is most attractive to me to have some sort of legacy plan in place that you're talking about with big names, because in my opinion, you're not ever going to get, you might have a year or 2 where you're sniffing the college football playoff. But as the University of North Carolina, it's really not your goal to do anything other than bring the program status up in the world of college football. Bill Belichick, Steve Belichick can do that. Now, you give him 3 years to do that, then he could ride off into the sunset. That seems like a much easier plan to get going than hiring somebody like a Matt Campbell or like a Glenn Schumann, because Belichick is seemingly bending a little bit here. We never thought that he was going to be okay with coaching in college, but apparently, according to CBS's Brett McMurphy, he is done with doing media stuff. This is just a quote from him. It's like he's tired of the Manning cast. So Belichick willing to even have this conversation, I think, shows where he's at, and I think UNC would do well to take advantage of it.
I don't think he's the best fit there. Like,
That's fair.
I really don't. Go get Summerall. Summerall to me seems the best grab for you. You can go get a coach who has proven that he can win in a relatively similar area, right? Tulane's in Louisiana, so relatively the same, East Coast, kind of more on the South, right? And he's done it with less money. You're going to get decent money at North Carolina. You're going to have decent NIL backing, and I would push back on you. You can't. I don't know that you can build a title team there, but if you would have asked 10 to 15 years ago, would you have said you could build a title team in Eugene? No, probably not.
Fair point.
There was a lot of people, a lot of really smart college football people that said Chip had gotten Oregon to the peak. That was the best they were going to be. And now all of a sudden Dan Lanning's turning in number 1 recruiting classes, or at least top 5 recruiting classes. He's flipping more 5 stars than ever before. And then when they go out on the field, they continue to improve, right? So if you get the right coach in a situation like North Carolina, I think you can do just fine. Like right now, Matt Campbell, I don't think he's necessarily the best hire for UNC, but he'd be a pretty darn good one. He's 1 game away right now from getting Iowa State, who before this year had never had a 10-win season, who has not won a conference championship since, I have the number right here, they haven't done it since 1912.
Jeez.
They're 1 game away, and that's what Campbell has done at Iowa State. Imagine what he could do with a little more resources in an area that has a little bit more fertile recruiting ground. So to me, why would you go for Belichick? Because Belichick isn't really going to be your coach. You think that the guy who got ran out of the NFL because he couldn't relate to his players is going to do a better job with the TikTok generation that's coming through? You think he's going to relate? Like, unless he has his girlfriend talking to all of them individually or working as a translator, there's no way that he's going to be able to relate to these kids better than what Summerall or a Campbell or a hotshot OC could do.
That is a prevailing question in my head. Can he get 100 kids plus to buy into what he's selling? But if he can, I actually do believe this could be a fit. He, like I just said, he wants another shot so bad. There's 130 plus FBS teams. There's only 32 NFL teams. So he sees where he could get more of a chance at coaching again. It's in college. Is North Carolina, though, willing to hand their program off to one old dude right after firing another one? Will, you bring up that point as well. It's a great question. I know that they're willing to kick the tires at least on it. And the current world of NIL and the way that college football exists now, Belichick might actually work well for a couple of years, just a couple of years. And at this point, what do the Tar Heels have to lose? All right, we got to switch gears. Is Oregon the most dominant team in college football? That's coming up next. Jordan Schultz and Will Ortner sitting in for the guys today on Sports Radio 1080 The Fan. Well, Danny has no voice. Dusty traveling to Indianapolis with the Oregon Ducks football team for the Big Ten Championship versus Penn State tomorrow in Indianapolis. Got to turn and burn here. Is Oregon the most dominant team in college football? Former ESPN College Game Day analyst David Pollack, thinks so. Here's what he had to say on his podcast about the Ducks' success so far this season.
But Oregon has by far been the most dominant team this year. And it's interesting. We talk about parity in college football, and we do have parity, but Oregon doesn't have parity. Like, Oregon's had a great season. They've played one, close game. I think.
So let's talk about that game then.
Let's do it. But they have 7 wins by 21 plus, Brent. Like, Oregon has thoroughly taken care of business.
Yeah, they really have, and that is something I don't think the national media is talking enough about. Well, we got to get to the next hour, so we'll go to break, but we're going to try to answer the question, is Oregon the most dominant team in college football, coming up next, as well as get into a preview of the Big Ten Championship game. Oregon favored by 3.5 over Penn State. I'm going to tell you why I think that number is way too low, and we'll dive into the rest of Oregon v. Penn State coming up on the other side of the break. Schultz and Will and Rusty in for Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan.
You now.
Championship Week on The Fan.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
KFXX, KWJJ, HD2, Portland. An Odyssey Sports Station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, one more sleep until number 1 Oregon faces number 3 Penn State in the Big Ten Championship game in Indianapolis. The Ducks are 3.5-point favorites tomorrow night, 5 o'clock kick on CBS. Live coverage right here on The Fan starts with Ducks Game Day at 1 o'clock with Dirt, Dusty, and Anthony Newman. Coming up tonight, though, number 20 UNLV at Albertson Stadium to face number 10 Boise State for the Mountain West Championship. That's a 5 o'clock kick on Fox. And then also Tulane in West Point facing number 24 Army for the American Athletic title. That one's also at 5 o'clock, but on ABC. College football tomorrow over on 910 ESPN Portland. First at 8 a.m., it's number 15 Arizona State and number 16 Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game in Arlington at Jerry's World. And at 4, number 8 SMU and number 17 Clemson in the ACC title game in Charlotte. Oklahoma State running back Ollie Gordon announced he is declaring for the NFL draft with 1 year of eligibility remaining. In the association, Trailblazers back in action tonight, hosting the Jazz. 7 o'clock tip on K2 Channel 2.2 and an Xfinity Channel 302. Donovan Clingan, Robert Williams III, Matisse Thybulle all out. Scoot Henderson questionable with a quad contusion. The Blazers are 2.5-point favorites. And the Portland Pilots in Ohio to take on the Golden Flashes of Kent State. 4 o'clock tip on ESPN+. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts this afternoon at 3:30. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. This week, a conference title and a college football playoff bye is on the line.
I think the team you want to play, like when you're talking about the team you want to play, is Penn State.
This is a Big Ten Championship Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here. Online at modspdx.com.
Gabriel on a snap from under center, rolling to his left. Wants to keep, now wants to throw, got him open in the end zone. Touchdown, Terrence Ferguson.
Big Ten Championship Week with Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
What's up, sports fans? Happy Friday. Hour number 2 of a Danny and Dusty show here on Sports Radio 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, YouTube. For all the kids out there, hi, YouTube. Good to see everybody. If you want to check in the YouTube comments or on the Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6FAN, please do so. We're going to be talking Oregon Ducks and the college football playoff and conference championship games here for probably the next hour or so, minus a little bit of a break for the worst day on the web. That's a doozy. You're going to want to stick around. I'll get to my inflatable hot tub later in the show. Excited. I got that warming up right now in the garage. I think it's sitting at about 87 degrees. So maybe by the time I start getting people over tonight for our big old party, we are having an adult-themed slumber party. I'll actually be able to climb in. It'll be north of 100 degrees. I took the plunge on an inflatable hot tub, so we'll get to that. But, Will, we got to answer some much more important questions, and that would be the main one on people's minds. Oregon v. Penn State this weekend. Can Oregon get it done in the Big Ten championship game? But beyond that, I wanted to kind of start out the framing of this conversation talking about Oregon specifically before we get into Penn State, Will, and discuss whether or not they are the most dominant team in college football. David Polak, and actually we'll play that clip again here in a second, Rust, if we could. David Polak talking about on his podcast the Ducks season so far and why he thinks they're the most dominant team in football.
But Oregon has by far been the most dominant team this year. And it's interesting. We talk about parity in college football, and we do have parity, but Oregon doesn't have parity. Like, Oregon's had a great season. They've played one, close game. I think.
Right, so let's talk about that game then.
Let's do it. They have 7 wins by 21 plus, Brent. Like, Oregon has thoroughly taken care of business.
Yes, they have. They've been dominant, but of course, they have experienced some challenges along the way. A few weeks ago, the Ducks narrowly defeating Wisconsin, that 16-13 win. They only scored, both teams, by the way, only scored on one end of the field. So that's one glaring reason as to why that score was so low. Of course, they won by just a point against Ohio State, snuck past Boise State by 3 points. And that was at the beginning of the year, though. I mean, they only led Idaho by 3 points with 6 minutes remaining before a late touchdown. But this was at the beginning of the year when Dylan Gabriel was trying to gel, when the offensive line didn't really have a left guard, so to speak, a center, because Pickard was in and they had to slip their center over to left guard. But you move there, not just offensively, not just defensively, special teams, but position by position, Will, when you look at what Oregon's done, how they've gotten the wins, and in the multiple ways they've gotten the wins, do you think that they're the most dominant team in college football?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be. You're 12-0. Every other team at some point has lost a game. And frankly, every other team that has lost a game, how many of them do you look at those losses and you go, you know what, that's actually okay? Like Texas lost to Georgia. And in most years it would be, hey, you know what? That's a really tough game. You lost to Georgia. Yeah, it was at home, but Georgia's a really good team. But that's also the same Georgia team that barely beat Kentucky. That's also the same Georgia team that lost to Alabama. And frankly, after the first half was getting destroyed by Alabama. Even in the game that they beat Texas, they didn't look that great. Carson Beck just got lucky that they started half their drives in the first half on the opponent's side of the field. I mean, they really should have lost to Georgia Tech. Like, that really should have happened.
8 overtimes
last week. Yeah, if Georgia Tech just keeps doing what they've been doing all game, which was run Haynes King, they win that football game.
Well, and ultimately, a game decided by 2-point conversions over and over, I don't think really gave everybody a convincing argument that Georgia should have won.
Right. Not a super fan of that decision. I hope it's not the same overtime structure in the playoffs. I think if that happens, you'll see a big change. But to get back to Oregon, you have the number 1 quarterback in the Big Ten. He's not going to win the Heisman, but he's going to be a top 5 vote getter. This offensive line, which did struggle at the beginning of the year, they're one of the 3 teams that are Joe Moore Award finalists. Tez Johnson would be looked at more favorably if he didn't have his injury. Now that you get him back, what he's been able to do for this offense and just the eyes that he draws and frees up Holden and frees up Ferguson and frees up Stewart. You look at the running game, again, at the beginning of the year, not great. Once the offensive line got figured out, Jordan James, he's one of my favorite running backs to watch. He's always trying to find someone to run through. And then you look at this defense. I don't understand why nationally the defense doesn't get the same type of love. Like, I've been listening to national shows all week in my preparation for this game and my preparation for my gambling bets, and they all talk about Penn State being the better defense.
Yeah.
And they might
especially
have
up front.
They might have the better overall player. Like, Abdul Carter's probably going to be a top 10 pick. He might be a top 5 pick. Like, that's how good and freaky he is out on that edge. The problem is that Oregon has a guy that got more sacks than him this year, in Mateo Uyunglele. And because of the amount of games that Jordan Burch missed, there were multiple times where Mateo Uyunglele was the featured pass rusher. Like, they knew he was coming. He wasn't just eating because Jordan Burch was on the other side getting all the looks. Jordan Burch, in 4 less games than all of the other top sack getters in the Big Ten, he's top 4. Like, if he doesn't get hurt and miss, 4 games, he probably is leading the league in sacks. So then all of a sudden you're going to have the conversation that they could very easily have the top 2 sack getters in the Big Ten. Then you throw in Cardwell. Then you throw in Harmon, who Harmon is still one of the most disruptive players in college football. He's almost got a Chris Jones-like effect because of the amount of pressure and his run-stopping ability that he can get from the inside. That's not even going in to talk about how good Betcher has played and how good Bassa has played at that linebacker level or the secondary and what Jabbar Muhammad can do shutting down an entire side. They are the best team in football right now, and I don't think that they get enough credit. Now, am I going to come out here and say that they are on par with one of the great Alabama teams or that 2019 LSU team or 2001 Miami Hurricanes?
Of course.
04 USC. I'm not going to have that conversation.
No, I'm talking about this year.
I don't think that's where they're at. But I do think that Lanning is going to have something dialed up for this game because all you've heard all week is how this Penn State team is on par with this Oregon team, and I frankly just don't think they are because this Penn State team wasn't on par with that Ohio State team.
Yeah.
And that Ohio State team was a worse version than what Oregon faced, and Oregon beat that Ohio State team.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. And I guess essentially I'm kind of talking like, would you rather have a team, that's like B+ or A- in every facet of the game like I think the Oregon Ducks are? Or would you want a team like Texas where you got like maybe an A+ defense, but like a B- offense? I mean, there's little differences that we're talking about here, but that's why I say position to position, Oregon is the most dominant. And
they're the most complete.
Exactly.
They're the most complete team. And I
like
think
that word too.
They have multiple ways that they can beat you. Not every team has multiple ways that they can beat you. Like this Penn State team, I would be lying if I said there isn't a path for them to beat this Oregon team.
There
is 100% a path. But that path for this Penn State team is they have to play suffocating defense.
Well, Carter's got to be in the backfield the entire game.
Carter is going to have to get after Dillon Gabriel, and he's going to have to get sacks on Dillon Gabriel. And Dillon Gabriel is going to have to do the one thing that Dillon Gabriel has shown when he's shown weakness, and that's have turnovers in the red zone. Then Penn State is going to have to be able to run the football, and Drew Aller is going to have to be able to find Tyler Warren multiple times, because your number one wide receiver target is your tight end. And the different places that they're going to play Warren so that they can get him the ball it's going to be incredible. You're going to see something, if you haven't watched a lot of Penn State football games this year, where you go, hey, isn't that the tight end? Why is he at quarterback now? Why is the tight end at left tackle? How is he eligible to go out? Wait a minute. They didn't have enough guys on the line of scrimmage. What is happening with this guy?
They give some weird looks.
They're going to put him in a bunch of weird spots so that he can play and get the ball to him. And so they're doing it to get matchups. And he's a matchup nightmare because you can't just put Muhammad on him. This isn't like when you played Ohio State and you can say, well, we're going to put Muhammad on Smith and hope that we limit Smith to 3 or 4 catches. Like, you can't put Muhammad on Warren because of what Warren can do in the running game too. Yeah. But to win this football game, it's going to have to be a low-scoring game for Penn State. Where I think if Penn State comes in and they take away the passing game, I still think there's a world where Oregon can run over Penn State. If this game turns into a shootout, I don't like Penn State's chances.
Nope.
If this turns into a gritty, grimy, grinded-out game, I like Penn State a little bit more than I like Oregon. But do I think that Oregon can win that type of game? 100%. So I'm going to go with the team that can win in a variety of different ways as opposed to the team that can really only win in one way.
Yeah, that's a great point. We'll get into that one way here, too, or we kind of already just did that Penn State can do it. Well, we'll get into the multiple ways that Oregon can win here in a couple of minutes. But Penn State v. USC is the barometer that it seems like a lot of national pundits and even some local people are using to compare Oregon to Penn State. And you know, maybe people think that because of that, Penn State's going to put up some points on Oregon. I highly doubt that. You talk about a very talented defensive line. I mean, it's really one guy. It's Carter for Penn State. They've got some other guys there on the defensive side as well, and they are a top 20 defense in the nation. I should point that out. They're nothing to sneeze at, right? Penn State is really talented. They deserve to be here, and they were still undefeated at that point when they beat USC to move to 6-0. So, I mean, they've been in the conversation all year. Drew Aller's had a lot of good games, but if you're looking at giving it only to Allen, giving it only to Warren, and then depending on your defense, basically, you know, to keep Dillon Gabriel and to keep Jordan James in the backfield, is that actually comparable to what Penn State's game against USC was? I don't think so. USC, which doesn't really have that great of an offense, scored 30 on them. And if I'm just taking that directive, I would think Oregon can score 50 on Penn State.
That seems excessive. I would not take Oregon. I don't think that this is a blowout. I think I think Oregon wins the game. I think they win it by a touchdown, maybe by 10. They're not. I don't think they put up 50 in this one. Don't be shocked if this is kind of a feel-it-out game at the start. How often do we see big games, especially in college football, where for the first quarter or so, kind of both sides, maybe they get a first down or two offensively, but they end up leading to punts. I just think as the game goes, Oregon will wear this Penn State team down. And then the key for both sides, it is a little bit silly saying it this way, but turnover margin is going to be important.
Yes.
If Penn State can turn over the Ducks, especially multiple times, where they get shorter fields, that's going to set them up in a good spot to where they can get points. The only reason that Ohio State game was within a score at the end was because they got a pick six early against Howard. If Dillon Gabriel can limit his mistakes, especially the back-breaking ones in the red zone, which has happened to him. It hasn't happened recently, but it happened early on in the season. That can be a momentum shifter. But I really look at that Ohio State game, and this Penn State team was going up against, for most of that game, the number 2 left tackle. I think the number 2 left tackle gets hurt in that game, and it becomes the number 3 left tackle at one point. Ohio State still had their center in McLaughlin, but they were on their 3rd string left tackle, and Carter was able to eat, and he got after Howard. But Ohio State, when they needed to, they were able to run the football. It's the same Ohio State team that if you take away 1 or 2 explosive plays, could not run the football against Oregon, and that was at 100% health. That same Ohio State team couldn't run the football against Michigan, a defensive line that this Penn State team didn't have to go against. They couldn't get that push. Remember, they had the ball on the 3-yard line, first and goal, and they couldn't gain 3 yards, and they ran 3 straight run plays. Now you're going up against an Oregon defensive line that I think is better and better at getting after the passer. Now, there's a great text here on the Vancouver Ford text line. What about the backup QB, Prabula? He has shown that he can run a little bit. That fits a little bit more of what Andy Kotelnicki wants to do. Don't be shocked if he comes out multiple times in different packages, in different settings, specifically the red zone, where you can add into that +1 run game, where he gives you something that Oregon hasn't really seen out of this Penn State team because they haven't done it unless Aller's been hurt. Aller's a little bit more of a pocket passer where Prabula can move around a little bit. That all being said, barring turnover luck, which at times it really is, if a ball hits off a guy's hands, bounces into the defender's hands, that's luck. It's a good job and it's skill of putting yourself in the right position. But there are times where sometimes the fumble just bounces into the defender's hands.
Yeah.
If you can take away those turnover lucks, and if you're the Ducks and you can win the turnover margin, I think you win this game, and there's a chance that you win it comfortably.
Well, they've won just about every type of game this year, and that is why they are being considered by some as the most dominant team in college football. It could just be one of those years where everything comes together at the right time for a team. This could be the Ducks' turn. But speaking of coming together, we've kind of taken a look at what Penn State has to do to get the win in the Big Ten championship game between Oregon and the Nittany Lions. Now let's take a look at the keys to the game for the Oregon Ducks tomorrow in Indianapolis. A Schulte and Will edition of Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan. still just 3.5-point favorites over Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. It's going to kick off tomorrow night at 5 p.m. right here on The Fan. It is so crazy. You couldn't even write a movie script like this. The last time Oregon faced Penn State, that was in the 1995 Rose Bowl game that Oregon was granted a berth into because of this famous play.
Ewer, you're going to go back to throw the ball. Sets up, looks, throws toward the corner of the end zone. It is intercepted! Intercepted! The Ducks have the ball! Down to the 35, the 40. Kenny Wheaton's going to score! Kenny Wheaton is going to score! 20, the 10, touchdown! Kenny Wheaton on the interception! The most improbable finish to a football game!
Yeah, that is right, of course. That ensuring Oregon into the 1995 Rose Bowl against the Penn State Nittany Lions. Undefeated was Penn State going in, of course, coached by Joe Paterno. Lost 38-20. Keyshana Carter started that off with like an 80-some yard touchdown run. Basically, Oregon playing from behind the whole time. But hey, some records set. Former Oregon quarterback Danny O'Neal threw for like 490-some yards. I think that's still a Rose Bowl record to this day. So pretty cool just to kind of realize, like, I was just looking like, when has Oregon State played Penn State since? Nope, literally no times since the 1995 Rose Bowl. It is just so ironic that as soon as Oregon comes into the Big Ten, they don't play Penn State this year at all in the regular season, but because of the debacle with Ohio State, they face Penn State in the Big Ten championship.
Well, they have a chance to dominate the Blue Bloods of the conference. Like, if Oregon wins this, they will have beaten every good Big Ten team. And I know it's kind of sour grapes and it's a little bit of petty wars, but you can then have the conversation of like, well, was the Pac-12 really that bad? Because all of the teams that have dominated your conference, Oregon just ran through it. Now, Oregon, of course, was one of the better teams in the Pac-12.
But they cannibalized themselves, always.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing for a conference. At least it should be.
It just shows that maybe the middle to bottom of the conference wasn't as good as some might have wanted you to believe.
Of the Big Ten?
I would love nothing more than for all of the Power 4 conferences to be won by new teams. Like, I would love for Arizona State, Oregon, Texas, and SMU to win and be the champions of the Power 4 conferences and them all be new teams. It would be beautiful.
Yeah, we're going to give our predictions for picks on who's going to win the conference championship games coming up here in about 25, maybe 30 minutes. And I'm going to tell you why I want SMU to win. It's definitely a new world that we live in. But of course, according to Oregon v. Penn State, the big question will be if the Nittany Lions, which once again, I will state, is a top 20 defense in the nation. They have a good D, especially up front. Will they be able to contain Dillon Gabriel and his Swiss Army knife of weapons that Oregon has on offense? You got two great running backs in Whittington and Jordan James, all your tight ends past Terrence Ferguson, Kenyon Sadiq, you got Patrick Herbert, you've got all the wide receivers beyond Tez and Evan Stewart and Trayshawn Holden, even guys like Justice Lowe coming in and making an impact this year. Dillon almost has what seems like an unlimited number of weapons. And if you're looking at an indoor stadium here that Oregon's playing Penn State in, that usually favors the faster team historically. And I don't really see Oregon, who is the faster team, really only struggling earlier in the season trying to get their feet wet. And when the weather sucked in Madison, Wisconsin, I don't see them struggling on this field. In a neutral site game, I personally am heavily leaning on Oregon to run Penn State out of Lucas Oil Stadium. You don't think they're going to beat them by as much, Will, but I just think the offense is too much for Penn State to handle.
I think it can be. I mean, if this game turns into a shootout, yes. I just don't believe that this game will turn into a shootout. Penn State is good enough defensively to not allow that to happen. I don't know if offensively they can keep up. At the same time, though, like what Ohio State was able to do to Penn State's offense, I don't know that necessarily Oregon can replicate that, although at times I do think that Oregon's defense is better than Ohio State's defense. The beauty of what Penn State can do and the way that Penn State can win this game is you have to take the air out of the football. Yeah. Like you have to run. Franklin and Allen have to have one of the better performances this weekend because Penn State is a little bit turning into O-line U. Like they are getting good offensive linemen. They're putting them into the NFL and they're performing at top levels. Just look at Olu Fashanu right now. He's out in New York with the Jets. He's been pretty decent as he's filling in at that left tackle spot. and he's just the latest one, right? So
Yeah.
I think if you're an Oregon fan, and don't get me wrong, I'm extremely high on Oregon. I wrote about it. If you want to head over to the 1080 The Fan X spot, you can head on over. In my video, I have Oregon winning this football game and putting my own hard money on it. I think that Oregon will win, and I think that they will cover. I don't necessarily know that this is going to be, it's the fourth quarter, they're up by 2 scores, don't have to sweat it out. I think this is going to be a back and forth game. And it really turns into a play-in game for the bye. The winner of this game is going to get the bye. And I know that
the number
there's
one seed, yeah.
I know that there's a conversation out there. Well, the 5th seed might be better. Yeah, but that's also an extra game that you have to play.
That's bullshit. I find that to be totally crazy.
I think that there is something to be said about getting the extra time off, especially when this is going to be the longest season ever, right? You don't want to have to play more games than you necessarily have to. So I think Oregon needs to win this game, and I think the way that they're going to do it is they are going to do it by getting Penn State off the field with their defensive line playing in the backfield. Don't be shocked if you see Tosh Lupoi add a little bit more pressure. This could be a big game for like a Tatum Tuioti. He is great at getting into the backfield in the run game and in the passing game and creating havoc. Now, he doesn't always come away with the stats. He's not always the one who gets the tackle for a loss or who gets the sack, but he drives those players into Harmon. He drives those players into Uyunglele. He drives those players into Birch. So don't be shocked if you see this defensive line eat. I don't think that Penn State has a wide receiver like Warren. He's a tight end. He's his own thing. He definitely scares me. But when you look at this wide receiving core, none of them scare me for that big play, that explosive play. When Penn State has big explosive plays, their talent gap between the defense that they're playing is either vastly superior, which it's not against Oregon, or Kodal-Nicki draws up some crazy play against that defense. I don't think he'll be able to do that against this Oregon team. And if Oregon makes Penn State drive the length of the field time in and time again, I don't think that Penn State will be able to do that more than a couple times in this game at the most. So then it turns into Oregon's offense. If your defense is going to hold them to somewhere between 14 and 21 points, you need to find a way to get into the end zone and get your own big explosive plays. So this could be a big game for an Evan Stewart, right? Last time you played a team and a defense of this caliber, it was Ohio State. Who ate the most in that game? Evan Stewart. He dominated Burke on the outside. If he can do that again with his speed, which few can replicate, and Dylan Gabriel seeing him in one-on-one coverage and leaving that ball so that he can run into it, I think that Evan Stewart could have a gigantic game in this one. And then you're going to need to lean on that offensive line.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter can't have multiple sacks in this game. He's a good enough player to where if he gets into the backfield and you're dropping back and you have to drop back to pass multiple times in this game because Penn State is leading, and this turns into more of a passing attack game from this Ducks offense because of what the score dictates, you could be in a lot of trouble. He's that good. Now, Cornelius and Connerly, they're great tackles. But you're going up against a defensive end and asking them to pass pro Carter 50 times in a game, even 40 to 50 times in a game, that's a big ask. So how do you put him in play action pass? Do you scramble away from him? Do you run a lot of nakeds the other way? When you're in your run game, do you go opposite of Carter? Do you basically make him on the backside? Do you make him the read player? I would love to see him the read player in the zone read game. But I think that if they can stop Carter offensively with that offensive line and they can get to Evan Stewart deep, I think that the Ducks are going to have a good shot to win this game, and I think that they're going to cover.
And quickly, just to wrap this up, you bring up the Oregon-Ohio State contest, you brought up Oregon versus Penn State, and then their game against Ohio State. It's been kind of funny hearing, not only have some people wanted to compare this matchup with Penn State, like Penn State playing USC, but some people have also talked about it maybe being like an Oregon v. Ohio State game, kind of a shootout, not necessarily super, super high scoring into the 20s or 30s, but whoever gets the ball last or, holds on to it last is going to win. I personally don't think that's going to happen at all. Drew Aller, decent quarterback. You mentioned the wide receivers, though, that they don't have at Penn State. They don't have a Jeremiah Smith. They don't have an Egbuka. They don't have Travion Henderson and Quinshon Jenkins. They got one decent running back, but not two. Tyler Warren, he's a really good skill player, probably one of the top 5 in college football this year. But if you're looking at which game do you think it's going to be like on the schedule, Oregon's played so far this year, I'm looking at a situation Oregon had against Michigan, where they beat them by 17, beat them by 21 or whatever it was, and Colston Loveland was like the only person able to do anything on their offense. So it's okay if I don't like to see, anybody succeeding for the opponent, but it's okay if Oregon lets one person do it. But I think when you start getting into the territory of letting Warren start to get out on you, run those multiple looks that you were talking about, Will, letting Aller get out, and hell, if they throw some different looks out there and they put that backup in, Colton Nicky might get even more creative and try to sneak up on the Ducks. So I don't think that there's much of a comparison to the Oregon-Ohio State game when Oregon plays Penn State. And on top of that, why is there all of a sudden faith in James Franklin to win a big game? Like, people are talking about Penn State like they have a legitimate shot at this when they're coached by somebody that's 1-13 against top 5 teams. So somebody answer me that. We got to get to break, but I do find it hypothetical and hypocritical and stupid, that you literally don't hear any of that kind of negative talk about Penn State with a 1-13 head coach in games against top 5 teams. But you've got Oregon, who literally has won every game this season, and they're questioned every single step of the way. It's just this old guard mindset. It's got to stop. Like, people out there still think nobody's going to be better than the original Blue Bloods, like Alabama, like Penn State, like Texas. It just annoys me. All right, I digress, Will. We could go on about this forever, but we got to get to Worst Day on the Web. It's actually a pretty funny one. Hawk Tua Girl gets Worst Day on the Web. That's next, but first, here's Russ with SportsCenter.
This is Big Ten Championship Week with Denny and Dusty.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Red Tail Golf Center's holiday sale going on now with up to 50% off all your holiday golfing needs. Red Tail Golf Center, where we guarantee the lowest holiday prices. Visit us at golfredtail.com. First on the Fan, one more sleep until number 1 Oregon faces number 3 Penn State in the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis. The Ducks 3.5-point favorites tomorrow night, 5 o'clock kick on CBS. Live coverage here on the Fan starts with Ducks game day at 1 o'clock with Dirt, Dusty, and Anthony Newman. Coming up tonight, though, first, number 20 UNLV at Albertson Stadium to face number 10 Boise State for the Mountain West Championship. That's 5 o'clock on Fox. And Tulane in West Point facing number 24 Army for the American Athletic Championship. That's another 5 o'clock kick, but on ABC. Some college football tomorrow across the hall over on 910 ESPN Portland. First up at 8 a.m., number 15 Arizona State and number 16 Iowa State in the Big 12 Championship game. That's coming to you from Arlington at Jerry's World. And at 4 o'clock, number 8 SMU and number 17 Clemson in the ACC title game in Charlotte. Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty and Oklahoma State running back Ollie Gordon both announced they are declaring for the NFL draft. In the association, the Blazers back in action tonight, hosting the Jazz. 7 o'clock tip on K2 Channel 2.2 and Xfinity Channel 302. Donovan Clingan, Robert Williams III, Matisse Thybulle both out. Scoot Henderson questionable due to a quad contusion. The Blazers are 2.5-point favorites. Round 2 of the Hero World Challenge from Albany Golf Club in the Bahamas. Scotty Scheffler all along at the top of the leaderboard after an 8-under 64. He is 13-under overall, 2 strokes clear of Akshay Bhatia and Justin Thomas. Keegan Bradley all alone in 4th place, 4 strokes off the pace at 9-under. Ludwig Oberg at 7-under and Patrick Cantlay at 6-under. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new long-sleeve tee and hoodies in your favorite college colors. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com.
I'm Leif, owner of Leif's Auto Collision Centers. A recent survey
Week with Danny and Dusty
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
on 1080 The Fan. It's time for today's worst day on the web with Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Man, that sucks.
Well, today's worst day on the web, pretty funny. We've been hearing about this. I guess not funny if you were one of the people that invested in this, but we've been hearing about kind of a phenomenon called meme coins, Will. You heard about this yet?
Hawkonomics, dude. Yes.
Hawkonomics apparently are
All about my Dogecoin.
being hawked all over the place. I don't really know what Dogecoin is doing right now. I know Bitcoin went up a ton. It's up over like
Are you
$90,000 bucks a
invested?
coin.
Are either of you invested in any like cryptocurrency?
I bought a couple of $100 bucks.
Bitcoin, Ethereum,
like a
any of that?
couple
I'm
years
48
ago.
years old, so that is a hard no.
I don't understand it. And I kind of feel like anyone who truly understands cryptocurrency sucks.
Well, like, why are we investing in fake money?
Yeah, but it keeps going up. Like, apparently people are making money
I'm not
on
sure,
Bitcoin.
but yeah, people do.
But then all of a sudden they also lose money. Like, there's no backing. Like, nothing truly supports it. I don't understand why it's become a big thing. But all of the worst people that I know, or most annoying people that I know, are all big into crypto.
I mean, I get it. It's
A couple good ones, too.
It's an alternative, way to make money. It wasn't really taxed until this last year, so people were into that. But not only are like normal people like you and I getting into it, but celebrities are trying to hawk these things called meme coins. And the latest one to get caught up in reported scam. This is just alleged. I don't know if this is true or not, but this apparently happened to people supporting the Hawk to a girl, Haley Welch. Thank you very much, Rusty. Multiple people buying into the Hawk crypto meme coin. She apparently launched not only a merchandise line in her podcast here in the last couple of months or a few months or whatever the hell it was, but here in just the last couple of weeks, she launched her own version of meme coin, a Hawk crypto coin. Apparently got up to a $490 million market cap right after it launched late Wednesday, but 3 hours later, the worth of the coin plunged almost 91%, carried a valuation of just $41.7 million. So essentially, if you don't understand what I'm saying, this thing came out, people bought into it, and then all of a sudden it tanked, so they lost all their money within 3 hours.
Concrete jungle, wet dream tomato.
Yeah.
She is funny.
I mean, yes, but
She does make me laugh.
that's not really the point here. Apparently, this is according to Haley Welch herself. She said that snipers and like botters basically took advantage of the price of that meme coin when it started, drove the price up to get the value for themselves, and then drove the price back down to take all the money from anybody else that bought into it. Welsh is saying that it was not herself. She posted on X that she tried to stop these snipers, quote unquote, as best as they could through high fees at the start of the launch. And her insiders on the crypto project hadn't sold one token of Hawk, but Welch still said that this meme coin was not just a cash grab. She admitted that she used to view cryptocurrency as just a scam and an easy way for you to lose money, but has since said she changed her mind. Doesn't see it as a, quote, gambling thing. I think it's like a fun way to get my fans to interact, quote.
If you're famous at this point,
God,
you got to just not have a coin,
Don't
right?
do
I
it.
mean, like first it was the Walking Bets lady, Taylor Mathis. She pulled the rug out from everyone. Now a Hawk to a girl. I could have never seen this coming.
No.
How could she get us?
It started way before that. It started with Tom Brady, with all the other Steph Curry taking money to advertise for Crypto.com before the company went punk.
See, but wasn't that a different thing? Like they didn't pull, like those celebrities themselves didn't pull the rug.
No, but they promoted
it.
it.
It was the guy who was running it.
They promoted
or whatever
the
his
system.
name. He was shady.
Was it
as
Sam
you know what.
Bankman-Fried? Is
I
that what it-
believe
Yeah,
so.
that's who we're talking
I
about.
believe he was like out in the Bahamas. And
Yes.
Yeah, that guy sucked.
Yes, he does. But celebrities started pushing this stuff, and it's obviously this is a meme coin, not just like regular like
But
crypto
why invest
Bitcoin.
in meme coins? Like, what are we
'cause-
doing? There was one person that I saw. They were like, I'd put a couple grand in there, and now it's
No.
gone. And it's like,
No.
isn't that your fault? Like, I don't know. I have a guy, and I just trust that guy to do my investments for me. Thank you, Eugene.
I'm going to go with a little bit of unfrozen caveman lawyer here. What exactly is the difference between like crypto and a meme coin?
So all meme coins are crypto. Not all
Yeah.
crypto is a meme coin.
A meme coin is essentially like a centralized version of a type of crypto that you can buy into.
A meme coin is Hawk Tuah Girl. She blew up and became a meme, right? So she's only famous because of that interview.
It's like all Coke is soda, but not all soda is Coke.
Kind of.
Yes.
Unless you're in the South.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's so she became famous for being a meme, so then
Yeah.
she releases her own coin. Like the one that I think of that's probably the most famous is Doge. There's a dog.
Yeah, Doge.
And so they call it Dogecoin. That's why Elon Musk, for his Department of Government Efficiency,
it's called Doge.
Named it Doge because he's a meme guy, also probably a crypto guy, and is big on that kind of stuff.
We are living in the dumbest timeline.
It's so it's so
We've got
dumb.
we've got a dude that made rockets and
It's
cars.
so stupid.
Leading the Office of Government Efficiency, which is new, and we've got Hawk Tuah Girl.
But it's called Department of Government Efficiency.
Well,
so that he can play off the meme.
Doge.
I would love if the government stopped this from happening. That's what I want. So people don't buy into this crap. But honestly, if you do think that you're going to make money buying into a meme coin from a celebrity, stop, examine yourself. What's that old Michael Jordan gif? Stop. Get some help, or that meme or whatever.
Just get a guy, man.
Yeah, you just need to play that
Just
for yourself.
go to a reputable place that does these things. I have a guy, Schwab, Charles, not less.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with Les either.
I don't think that I want to.
Lots of free beef back in the day.
I mean, yeah, I miss those days. I don't know that I ever got any beef, but I went in there and got tires the other day, and I remembered that. All
Hell
I'm
yeah.
saying is, just have a person. Like there are people who go to school for this.
Look, and if you want
They
to
are
throw away your money on something like this, then I've got some oceanfront property in Kansas that I can sell you.
Hell
Or
yeah.
donate it to Will Ortner's housing fund.
Right?
Whatever you want to do.
The Rust Kids College Funds.
There you go. See, these are all just meme coins are stupid.
And
Crypto's
jerks.
stupid.
Jerks ruin everything. Scammers ruin everything.
And
That's
it's
kind
the
of my
easiest spot.
ultimate takeaway
It's
here.
the easiest spot for you to scam someone.
Yeah, it's not regulated. So nobody
Yes.
can get their money back and go to the police or go to, anybody, government agencies that they think are going to get that back for them. And no, they can't do anything about it.
It is funny that there's like probably a guy who like has to go to his wife right now, and she's like, I can't wait for our trip to Mexico. And he's like, well, actually, I got caught in a pump and dump by Hawk Tuah Girl.
By Hawk Tuah Girl.
Actually, that trip to Mexico is now turning into a trip to New Mexico.
Hey.
We're headed to Galveston, Texas.
Let's go to
sweetie.
Santa Fe, baby.
Silver City, New Mexico.
we-
Let's go.
Can we link any divorces specifically to the rug being pulled by Hawk Tuah Girl?
I need the stats by
Oh, I'm
that.
sure there's probably one or two
Yeah.
out there.
I
But-
hope so.
No, by 6 months from now, I think we'll have some
If I
stats.
had a significant other and they were like, guess what I just invested
Yeah,
in?"
that might be like,
I bought me some hot coin. I'd be like, get a new boyfriend.
All right, guys, let's switch gears back to college football. We're going to take a look at the conference championship slate happening around the football schedule this weekend. Will and Rusty and I are going to try to pick some winners for each game. It's 149 on the Fan. One of a million songs named after a woman.
Is it really a million?
There's a bunch. There's a good Family Guy bit. I can't remember what season, can't remember what episode, but Stewie asked Brian to name 20 songs that start with the name of a woman, and he just rolls them off, and then Stewie's like, name 10 more. And he does it again, and Stewie's like, name 5 more, because he came up with like this awesome song he wrote about a girl, and he comes up with all these names, and Stewie's like, go F yourself. Like, I hate you.
And this song, Rosanna, actually named after Rosanna Arquette.
Oh, really?
Because she was
not Barr?
She was dating, I believe, no, not Barr. Because I believe she was dating one of the members of Toto, one of the Porcaro brothers, if I remember correctly.
Toto. Funny alternate Toto fact, Mark Mothersbaugh, a member of Toto, did most of the music on Nickelodeon from, I would say, Rusty, your childhood, my childhood, or anybody that's around their mid-30s now, or 30 to 40.
What, like something you can't do that on television?
A little bit after that.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, we're talking, like, Fairly Odd Parents, like some of the live action, but some of the cartoons. He did the music for most of them. So, Toto, man, all around. I did not know.
They're the only reason I know where Mount Kilimanjaro is, so.
Well, except it is geographically inaccurate in the song.
It is.
What?
Yes.
But it's in Africa.
Kilimanjaro does not look over the plains of the Serengeti.
Yeah, that's...
Well, but it's in Africa.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Have I been lied to? Have I been out here spreading false information?
That was one part from the Yacht Rock doc the other night too, that they admitted when they wrote that song that nobody had ever been to Africa, and they had no idea about what Africa actually was.
Is that good? Is that worth it?
Oh, it was awesome. Oh, it was so good.
It's a couple-parter, right?
Yeah, it's on Max.
Is it a couple-parter?
No, it's just one.
It's
It's like just right around an hour and a half. It's a Bill Simmons joint. It's fantastic.
Bill Simmons, like if he puts his name on something, it's usually pretty good.
It's
unless it's like a weekly show.
It's tremendous.
Hey, it's almost better when those guys that do production are doing like a non-sports thing, like Bill Simmons, because I
like Simmons.
He almost gets to like play in a sandbox or something, whereas sports, I feel like it's a little bit more honed. It's his professional craft, but this is kind of a passion project for him. So that must mean it's good. So.
He had a great.
I wonder how often when he plays in the sandbox, somebody has to go, those aren't Lincoln Logs.
Oh, God.
He had a great
Jesus.
bit on
Thank
his
you, Rust.
podcast the other day where he compared LeBron's defense to his defense in pickup games. And I've never laughed harder. And I came away from it being like, that's why he's one of the GOATs. Just like only Bill Simmons could be like, you know what? This part of my pickup basketball game is the same as one of the greatest basketball players of all time.
Maybe watching that documentary tonight. Well, I'm going to sit in my inflatable hot tub.
Yeah, but see, there you go. That's the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
I got to figure out how to mount the TV in my garage now. So I got an inflatable hot tub, got one for Black Friday. Schultze household update. I did finally get one of these. This has been a topic on the station
you have
for
been
a
trying
bit.
to get one for a little bit.
Well,
they're nice.
They had them on
nice.
sale for Black Friday at Walmart for $238.
Oh, there you go.
I was just like, are
Cheaper
you kidding
than
me?
the inflatable cold tubs.
It's like it would cost you more money to not buy it.
At this point, not really, because there
They're
are monthly
forcing my
costs
hand.
associated with it. But it was half the cost of what it normally is. So I pulled the trigger. Wifey said Merry Christmas, and I'm very excited to get going on that. So we're just kind of killing time, though, having some fun. We only had like 3 or 4 minutes for this segment, but we've got to get to a full segment of conference championship previews this weekend, including tonight. Full of some very interesting conference championship matchups. Most have implications for the college football playoff. We're going to dive into all of that. Will and Rusty and I are going to give you our predictions coming up on the other side of the 2 o'clock hour. That's coming up next on a Schultze and Will edition of Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan.
KFXX, KWJJ, HD2, Portland, an Odyssey sports station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on the Fan, just one more sleep until number 1 Oregon faces number 3 Penn State in the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis. The Ducks holding firm as 3.5-point favorites. 5 o'clock kick on CBS. Live coverage right here on the Fan starts with Ducks game day at 1 o'clock with Dirt, Dusty, and Anthony Newman. Elsewhere tonight, a couple other championship games. Number 20 UNLV at Albertson Stadium to face number 10 Boise State for the Mountain West Championship. That's 5 o'clock on Fox. And Tulane in West Point facing number 24 Army for the American Athletic title. That one also 5 o'clock, but on ABC. College football tomorrow on 910 ESPN Portland. 8 a.m., number 15 Arizona State and number 16 Iowa State in the Big 12 Championship coming to you from Jerry's World in Arlington. And at 4 o'clock, number 8 SMU and number 17 Clemson in the ACC title game in Charlotte. Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty and Oklahoma State running back Ollie Gordon. They have both announced they are declaring for the NFL draft in the spring with 1 year of eligibility remaining. The Trailblazers back in action tonight, hosting the Jazz. 7 o'clock tip on K2 Channel 2.2. And Xfinity Channel 302. No Donovan Clingan, Robert Williams III, or Matisse Thybulle. Scoot Henderson questionable with a quad contusion. The Blazers are 2.5-point favorites. And the Portland Pilots in Ohio to take on the Golden Flashes of Kent State. 4 o'clock tip on ESPN+. Swag will have your coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starting at 3:30. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
It's The Fan on FM. Go to 99.5 FM HD2 and enjoy high def 1080 The Fan. Ducks versus Penn State.
Aller backpedaling. Now fires high and deep. It's not to the end zone, and it's intercepted.
This is a Big Ten Championship Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here. Online at modspdx.com.
If you're talking about which quarterback I trust the most, Drew Aller is so far in the distant third, it's not even funny.
Big Ten Championship Week with Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Hour number 3, no Danny and Dusty, Schultze and Will edition here on Sports Radio 1080 The Fan. Been here since noon, talking a lot of college football, talking some NFL as well. Rusty behind the glass doing all the heavy lifting. And now it is time. We were talking a little bit of Oregon Ducks v. Penn State and previewing that championship game. Now it is time to give our picks for the conference championship games this weekend. Of course, there are a couple on the schedule for tonight, and then a whole bevy of them for Saturday. All day. Heck, man, the ACC championship going on at the same time as the Big Ten championship. I don't know how many people are going to be watching that here, but let's start, Will. We'll go all around the horn here and get some picks. We'll start Friday night, tonight, the matchup between number 10 Boise State and number 20 UNLV. Boise State, at this point, I saw that they were a 3.5-point favorite earlier in the day. It looks like that's moved up, according to ESPN Bet, to 4.5. Will, who do you got?
I got Boise State at 4 earlier on in the week. That's where I'm going to sit. Now, the big thing for me is UNLV, obviously. You come from a warmer climate. You're going up north to take on Boise State. Haj Malik Williams, Boise is north. Yeah. Probably a little bit east of you on the map. He doesn't. That's the quarterback.
I think it's pretty squarely north.
That's the quarterback for UNLV. He couldn't find Boise on the map.
Yeah, it's the state directly above you. Dude.
It's right there.
That'd be like me saying I can't find Spokane.
Yeah, it's like not knowing where Vancouver, BC is.
I mean, goodness.
It's just
at least that's a different country.
Just go north.
Yeah.
Go north.
Where's he from?
And you'll be okay. I want to say he's from back east, but I could be wrong.
I mean, that's probably right.
I think that Boise State beats
Atlanta,
up
Georgia.
UNLV.
Yeah, he's from Atlanta.
So it's not like you never play them.
Right. Well, you played them once this year already.
Right.
Now, you did play them at home, which kind of factors into my whole thing here because I think Boise State and Ashton Jeanty are going to run all over you. I don't like when teams from a warmer climate have to go north and try and play in the cold, especially against a team that wants to run the football with Ashton Jeanty. I think that they're going to be able to run all over this UNLV team, and this is a play and get in game. This really is a playoff game.
Yeah.
Because if UNLV wins, they're in. If
Well, it looks
Boise
like-
State wins, they're in.
It looks like it's only going to be cold, though, too, not necessarily like snowy or
39.
anything,
No
right?
snow.
I saw 39 at kick. Although I've got inside information. I have friends, buds, if you will, in Boise. It snowed yesterday.
Did it?
It
Oh.
snowed yesterday. It's cold.
And I will say we had a high of 50 here the other day, and it only got to 38 in Wilsonville. So it's not like the thermometer is always correct.
Right? Yeah.
All right, Rusty, who do you got in this one?
That Ashton Genty kid, I don't know if you've heard of him.
I haven't. Please tell me more.
He's pretty good. He's just shy of 2,300 yards rushing on the season, averaging 7.3 yards a carry, which that somehow, had gone down a little bit. He made it through half the season, I think, averaging almost 10 yards a carry.
God, yeah, I think you're right. It
yeah.
was nuts.
So I'm gonna go ahead. I don't care how many points it is. Just go ahead and give me Boise there. I'll ride Ashton Genty all the way to that win.
I like you, Rusty, on that point. I'm actually going to follow you on that exact same thought line, which is that Janty, I know he's a little banged up, but I do think he's going to be able to handle UNLV's offense. They play a lot of man defense. I noticed that when they played Oregon State down at Reser Stadium earlier this season and beat them. But, this matchup against Boise State is one of the best games of the season 2.0. That 29-24 victory that Boise State had, I think it was like week 6 or 7, was super entertaining. A lot of turnovers, a lot of field goal conversions. Of course, we just said Boise State got the win. Boise State ranking in the top 20 for red zone conversions versus 86 for UNLV. So when they get there, they cash in. I think Boise State covers, and they're going to cover very easily. On to, we're going to skip the AAC and the Conference USA Championship games, guys. Sorry.
Tulane.
Not too into that. You think Tulane over Army?
Tulane.
Okay, all right. Will says Tulane.
I was going to go with the Black Knights, but
Okay, Rusty says the Black Knights. I like that. If I just had to throw a quick one in, I'm going to go Tulane to cover on that one.
although that is a colorful matchup between the Golden Flashes and the Black Knights.
You're not wrong.
I thought they were the Green Wave.
I'm sorry. You're not. Yeah, I'm a dumbass.
That
I was
still
thinking-
applies.
No. I was thinking I had Kent State and my Pilots update in my head, so I'm a dumbass.
That's going to be a fun game at
Apologies.
4.
But still, a
9:10
colorful
ESPN.
matchup.
Yes.
Yes.
Gotta love college football mascots. They're slightly better than minor league baseball mascots, but only slightly. All right, 9 a.m. tomorrow, the Dr. Pepper Big 12 Championship. This is a huge one, y'all. Number 16, Ohio State, taking on number 15, Arizona State. Of course, if Arizona State wins, they are in the college football playoff. Will, where are you going?
I've got ASU. They're the hottest team in college football right now. I got them at 2.5. That's now dropped, at least according to the line that I'm looking at, to 1.5 for Arizona State. It seems like a lot of people are moving towards Iowa State because Arizona State's best wide receiver, Tyson, it looks like he's not going to play in this game. If he does, he's clearly banged up. Here's the thing. Iowa State struggles to stop the run. Who has the best running back in the Big 12 Conference? It's Cam Scadaboo, and it's Arizona State. Sam Levitt, also, for as young as he is, West Linn kid, by the way, has been lighting up teams passing. I think if Scadaboo is able to run early on this Iowa State defense, that's going to open up the play-action pass game for Levitt. And Levitt, he's pretty athletic. He can use his legs when he wants to. I'm fully bought in on the Sun Devils. I'm fully bought in on Dillingham. They are the hottest team in college football right now. I think that they'll be able to get this one done.
Lay it on me, Rusty.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to... A 1.5 point spread. I mean, so you're basically looking at a pick 'em. I'm going to... Dilly Dilly's got it going, dude, and I think that Dilly Dilly's going to keep it going. So I'll take the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. The Jordan Tyson injury is going to be a little disruptive to what the Sun Devils do. He is one of their big 3, right? But Scadaboo, I think, is going to be able to make up the rest of that gap.
I did call him a Miley Cyrus wrecking ball the other day.
Well, he freaking is.
He is.
Have you seen that dude walk out of the tunnel without his pads on? He is a wrecking ball.
His ability
God.
to stay on his feet and his balance, because he just gets popped around and he always ends up on his feet. He's like a cat.
Yeah.
A cat that's rushed for just about 1,400 yards
Now,
this season.
But what happens when you strap a buttered piece of toast onto the back of a cat? Which side falls down?
What if you show him a cucumber? Does he fall? Does he freak out?
Well, they'll land
Does
on
he
all
think
fours.
it's a snake?
Oh, my God.
I love that that's what got Rust.
The cucumber videos, they're hilarious,
They're so
man.
fu- they
I
always
don't
think
know what
it's
it
a snake.
is.
They always think it's
What
a
is it
snake.
that freaks them?
They think it's a snake.
It's so good.
I got to try that on my cats now. Oh, my goodness. Pikachu and Eevee will not like that trick. All right, moving on to the SEC Championship at 1 p.m., a rematch of Georgia v. Texas. Of course, one of the most important games of the weekend. Texas losing to Georgia 30-15. Mid-season, Texas has the D, but Georgia's coming off of that 8 overtime loss to Georgia Tech. Where are you going, Will?
This one's hard for me because what Georgia was able to do to Texas last time felt like they were able to win because of a matchup that will still be set up in their favor. The defensive line from Georgia dominated this Texas O-line, and it's a pretty good Texas O-line. Now, do I think that first game can get replicated in the point differential, right, where Georgia wins by 15 plus? No, I don't think so. I think that this is a much closer ball game. That being said, if you can get halfway decent Carson Beck, where he's not turning the ball over, but still finding open receivers, this Georgia team, I think, can beat Texas. Texas's defense did a good job of limiting the amount of points that Georgia scored in that first game, and they seem to think that they have found something. Don't be shocked if this is a game that goes under the point total. The total that I'm looking at right now is at 49.5. I could see this game very easily being a 14-17 game, a 21-24 game, where it stays underneath that total, sometimes just barely with that 21-24 reference there. But I think that the defenses are going to be key. It's what offense shows up best. Quinn Ewers at times hasn't looked all that good this year, to the point where there's a conversation about him entering the transfer portal, not even going to the NFL. So it's very rare that you get to take Georgia and get plus money odds. I took Georgia and plus money odds. I wouldn't be shocked if Texas won, though.
See, now my pick here is going to have very little to do with actual football reasons. I just want to see Georgia to keep getting knocked down a peg, and it sounds like we might see some Arch Manning this weekend, or if not, like throughout the entire game. And look, I'm sorry, I'm a Peyton and Eli fan, and again, that's not even necessarily for football reasons. They're just hilarious. They crack me up, and I think this is the year that actually Texas is back. So I'm going to go with the Horns. Hook 'em Horns.
So I'm just looking at this game thinking that, well, one, it's already been played this year, and two, that it's extremely tough to win twice. I know Washington did it over Oregon last season, but man, Texas has the best secondary in college football. Carson Beck been struggling a little bit. Yeah, Georgia once again coming off of that 8 overtime loss. They've already lost to Texas this year. I know that Quinn Ewers has had some issues. Hell, their fans, Longhorn fans, have even been calling for Arch Manning at this point. But despite that, I still think Texas wins, and I still think they cover the spread of 2.5. All right, couple more games. We'll save the Big Ten Championship for last between the Ducks and Penn State. Maybe give an exact score prediction on that one. But the ACC Championship scheduled for kickoff at the same time as Oregon v. Penn State. That's going to be SMU v. Clemson. That has some big implications as well. SMU, if they win, they're going to be getting back into the, prominence of the national media and the college football playoff. But if Clemson wins, I mean Syracuse. Or not Syracuse. No, Clemson, if they win, they get in, right? Screwing that one up.
Clemson would get in because they'd have the automatic.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
It's a deeper discussion that we won't know the truth until Sunday, and we might not even have to know the truth if SMU wins. I think that Alabama is already in the college football playoff. I think that if SMU wins this game, there won't be any complaints because Clemson wouldn't be in anyways with 3 losses. If SMU loses this game to Clemson, Clemson would get the automatic berth, and I think that would keep SMU against Alabama into a conversation, and that would keep SMU out because Alabama is the bigger brand. TV contracts would want them more. Unfortunately, it's kind of similar to the Georgia game where if this turns into a shootout, I like SMU. But I really think that Clemson has the defense to limit the explosive plays for SMU, which then makes me think that this is going to be a rock'em sock'em type of a game. If I can get Clemson plus money, I'm going to take it. And unfortunately, as much as I don't want to see Clemson in this playoff, one, because I don't think that they're good enough, but two, I'm tired of seeing Dabo get what he wants.
Me too.
I did have to ride with the Tigers.
Wow, I'm surprised.
I'm going to ride those Stangs, and only because of 2 words, and that's Dabo Swinney, and my hate for him.
I don't like taking.
Yeah.
I feel gross. I need to take a shower.
I understand that. And by the way, it was Syracuse that was able to help out Clemson. That's why I was saying Syracuse. They're both orange too, so I always get them confused. But, a lot of people in the national media saying that they just can't not put money on Clemson in this spot against a team that hasn't really been there. But, man, I like SMU in this situation. They're playing for something as well. I mean, they got all kinds of money. I do believe that they are a much better team than most of the national media or general college football fans actually think they are. It's pretty ironic that they get right back into prominence in college football as payments to players are made legal. I just, after their death penalty in the 80s, I find that extremely ironic, but it makes sense. They know how to run a successful program, maybe even 50 years before it was legal. But SMU, man, they score on anyone. Their offense is explosive, 22 or 22nd in the country in yards per play, 50th in success rate, though, but they still can move the ball. Because of that, I think they will get the win over Clemson. And finally, the Big Ten Championship preview, Oregon v. Penn State. We've talked about it, Will. Let's give some score predictions.
I'm very high on Oregon. I think that Oregon leads this game wire to wire. I think I have them at the first half total, which is 2.5.
Okay.
I have them at the full game total, which is at 3.5. I think that Oregon is able to get this game won. Their big key is they're going to have to find a way to limit Tyler Warren's production. When you look at the rest of the receivers, no one is within like 40 catches of him. I went through and I was looking at it. I think in total receptions, it's like Warren at 80, and the next highest Penn State receiver is at 38.
Jeez.
You got to find a way to limit what he can do, and the best way to do that is to let Jordan Birch and Mateo Uyunglele pin their ears back and get after Aller. Aller has shown that when he gets pressure thrown in his face, he struggles. He's more likely to throw interceptions. He's more likely to take bad sacks, which just leads into 2nd and 3rd and longs, which allows you to, again, get right back into your pass rush. I think that the Ducks get this one done, and I think it's going to be right around that total. I think that they win this game by 7.
Rusty, who do you got? You on the Duckies?
Yeah, I'm on the Duckies here too, and for a lot of reasons that Will just said, that I feel like with Aller and his issues, that Oregon's pass rush, and especially what they showed last week against Washington, and with 10 sacks and such, they're gonna be in that backfield all day, and they dominated both sides of the line of scrimmage last week. So we're looking at a 3.5 point spread here. 50.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna go with let's see here. I'm gonna go with like how about a 31-17.
I like that. 31-17 is good. They would cover the spread by a lot. Pretty funny, by the way, as we're talking about this. The question on, pardon the interruption, or what is this one?
This is
Around the Horn.
Around the Horn. Thank you. It's not PTI. It's Around the Horn. Is can Penn State upset undefeated Oregon? And if so, what happens? No, they can't. I mean, there's like a little possibility, like Carter sacking Dylan Gabriel every time, not allowing Jordan James to run the ball. You get Singleton to have like an Ashton Gianti type of day, and then Warren runs all over him from like 6 different offensive positions, but I don't think Oregon's defense is going to allow that. So, no, I don't think there's a possibility that happens. Oregon, in my opinion, wins 28-10. I think they're going to win by at least 10, possibly 2 touchdowns or more, which is why I'm putting their difference so high. And I put my money where my mouth is. I threw half my betting account balance on the Duckies to cover. Responsibly, of course. This is money that I have to lose. It was a couple $100, but I threw that on the Duckies to cover 3.5. Is it a dangerous game? I don't think so, because I think the Ducks are going to win 28-10. All right, let's switch gears to some college football potpourri, looking at the SEC Championship a little bit deeper and the Mountain West Championship coming up tonight between Boise State and UNLV. That's coming up next on a Schulte and Will edition of Danny and Dusty. It's 2:21 on the Fan. Quick story about this song. I saw Boz Scaggs perform it live. I was waiting the entire concert to see it. It's my favorite Boz song ever, as I'm assuming it's a lot of people's favorite Boz Scaggs song.
Yeah, probably.
He looked like he would rather have been anywhere else. He did like a 15, 16 song set, finished it up with this, and he just had the biggest frown on his face, like, I have to sing this again. And I'm sitting there screaming, Lido, whoa, and just feeling good. And I will never forget how badly he did not want to sing his hit song.
And one of the things that I noticed while watching the Yacht Rock doc was realizing, I was like, I don't believe I've ever actually seen a picture of Boz Scaggs. I previously had no idea what he looked like.
Oh, Mr. Long-haired bearded guy.
Oh, but he was, but like the picture, no, what I saw from that doc, he was not. No beard, no long hair, just looked like some dude.
You can't be called the Boz and not have like a cool look.
That's
or
true.
an angry look.
And then the
you
other
need to be
one was
angry.
oh boy, what was it? I'm gonna have to.
It's like a kid
dig it
being
out
called
from yesterday.
Tank and being short.
Was that also that I my other realization was I needed a mustache like I believe his name, I forget what band he was in, but Jeff Skunk Baxter.
Ooh, he's
it's a cool
gotta
name
get
too.
He's got to get a white streak in the middle of that hair.
Yeah.
I would dye like part of it white.
But
That
it
would
was
be
a
so cool.
badass mustache.
All right.
Oh, he was a mustache guy?
Yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one.
Ooh, so you know what was interesting? So I was out at a school district subbing yesterday, and I was a PE teacher, and I didn't get to use the gym because they had a Journey concert that night, but not Journey. One of the like cover bands.
Yeah.
Oh, the Journey tribute.
It was a whole thing.
I bet.
Like, they had roadies in there, like helping them
Oh, I
set a
bet.
thing up the entire day.
That'd be fun. I'd love to see one like that.
Yeah, it had some sort of community thing that was going, like, I didn't fully understand it, and I didn't really look behind the curtain, but it was one of those things where, like, it took me a moment, and then I was like, oh my God, they are having a full-on Journey cover band concert in the gym of this school, and I have to go outside on the track with my PE kids because of it.
I would like to see Super Diamond someday. The
Super
Neil Diamond cover band.
I'm sure they're great.
Yeah.
Is that
Although
like a Dan Halen?
Yeah,
for
right,
Van
exactly.
Halen?
Yeah.
Dan Halen. These are really creative.
Well, and of course, we all know my favorite cover band is the Me First and the Gimme Gimmes.
What's that for?
They are a punk band. They take songs that are not punk songs and turn them into punk songs.
I like that.
And they go from like all different kinds of genres. They'll get some Celine Dion tunes, Christina Aguilera, Billy Joel, Neil Diamond, John Denver. They've got one album that's all country tunes. So you get like,
It's
Looking
country,
for
but
Love.
it's
You
now
get
pop, punk, or whatever.
They turn it all into punk.
I like that. There's a band.
It's fantastic.
There's a band that I see on my Instagram reels that does that too, and I almost love every single version of it.
Yeah, and like
It's
each one of their
fantastic.
albums basically has a different theme. So one is like country, one is they have one of all like Broadway show tunes. They have one that's all female like diva singers, and they're good stuff. It's hilarious.
That's fantastic.
I've seen them twice.
All right, I don't want to spend the rest of the time talking about music, even though I could. We already talked about Christmas music. I talked about my inflatable hot tub stuff. So really quickly, Will, looking at what?
Does that involve music?
The inflatable hot tub?
Yeah,
I mean,
is
it has
there
music.
a speaker?
Technically, yes, next to it.
It is a Yacht Rock Friday.
Yeah,
There you
baby.
go.
Gotta get some ladies in the hot water, namely my wife, and then you bring some ladies over for you. How about that? Be
I
fun.
gotta work.
No, come on. Next Super Bowl party, everybody can come on over. Actually, no, there was one person that did come for the last Super Bowl party that I threw.
Hey, there you go.
Sales guy Kurt, appreciate you.
There
You
we
brought a
go.
buddy
Good
and
for Kurt.
Ludwig, he's a good dude.
drank some yummy Miller High Lifes with me. I
There we
appreciate
go.
that. All right, really quickly, Will, two of the biggest conference championship games tonight. Well, excuse me, one tonight and one tomorrow. These games have, I would say, the biggest implications on the college football playoff. That is the Mountain West Championship tonight at 5 on Fox. Boise State hosting UNLV, not snowing, although it is cold up in Boise. And then, of course, tomorrow at 1 p.m. on ABC, the SEC Championship between Texas and Georgia, the rematch. Will, I guess which of these games do you think could affect the college football playoff more? And do you see either of these games kind of setting off, because we don't really know exactly what the college football playoff committee is going to do, right? We think that we know, like if Georgia loses, they'll probably be out, but it's not a guarantee. South Carolina already bitching that they're a 3-loss SEC team. They're most likely not going to get in, but
They're out.
Yeah, exactly.
In my eyes, they're out.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
4 teams. Sorry, I guess 5. There's 5 teams that can get in my eyes. UNLV or Boise State. So what you're watching in this Mountain West Conference game, and I think it's a beautiful spot of what they've done. They knew, obviously, Pac-12 had dominated that Friday night slot for the conference championships. Pac-12 is gone. Now they get to jump into that spot. When you look at the 3 conference title games that are going on, you've got the Conference USA Championship, you've got the AAC Championship, then you've got the Mountain West Championship.
Yeah.
It's very clear to me which one is the more interesting game. So you are going to get more views on that Mountain West Championship. Number 10 Boise State versus 20 UNLV. When you guys played in the original game down in Vegas, it was a back and forth affair. It was a close game. I want to say it was within 3 or 4 points, right? So going into this game, you're going to get a good game. I do love the aspect of it being at a home field. Like, it's not a neutral site. I enjoy the fact that UNLV, like, hey, you lost a conference game. You now have to go and beat Boise on their home field. I think that adds an extra element to it. It's going to be 32 degrees. I thought it was going to be 39 when I looked yesterday. That's what it said. It now says that it will be 32. So I feel like that's going to factor into Boise State's offense. They want to run the football more than they want to pass. UNLV, for the most part, really shut down Ashton Jeanty, and they're not afraid to run the football as well. The difference, I think, here is when teams from a warmer climate come up north or go to a colder climate, it usually leads to more drop passes because they're not used to having that kind of sting on their hands when they try and catch the football. And it leads to more missed tackles because guys start turning down hits. When you go in the cold and you hit someone and it hurts just a little bit more than it did on Thursday when you were tackling your teammate at home in the warm weather, you start to turn down contact, or you start to try and leave your feet so the contact that you do have is with someone's ankles. You're not catching them straight on. You're catching less of them. Well, when you're diving at ankles, that leads to more broken tackles or more run-through tackles. So I think that, for me, the most important game, because when you look at the SEC championship, Texas and Georgia are in. The difference is who gets the bye and who maybe gets a home playoff game, maybe is on the road. Where when you look at this Mountain West Championship, this is for the playoff. The winner of this game is in. It's winning in. This is the extra game. This is the 13th game or 13th team, I guess. If it's a 12-team playoff, really the first team out will be the loser of this game because they would lose the automatic berth.
So at that point, do you think Janty and Maddox Madsen can actually affect the college football playoff, or they're just going to be, even getting the bye, the second game, they'll just be out? Like, this is not, a normal Power 5 team, but they've been traditionally nipping at the heels of Power 5 teams before and always the one kind of knocking the big guy down.
It's matchup based for me.
Okay.
I think, like, you look at this Boise State team. Now, obviously, it's not the same Oregon team that is playing right now. I think if this Oregon team plays this Boise State team, they're probably favored by 12.5. But here's the thing about that. You know who else was favored by 12.5? Ole Miss when they took on Kentucky. They lost. Same thing with Alabama when they took on Oklahoma. They lost. So whatever the ranking is or whatever Vegas has who favored by, I don't think should necessarily matter. This Boise State team plays good, hard-nosed defense, and they can run the football with Ashton Jeanty. When you give Ashton Jeanty 2 weeks off, and if they get the bye, I think it would end up being 3, almost closer to 4, depending on when they played that game. You're going to give him time to get healthy. He's been dealing with a foot issue. He's been dealing with an elbow issue. It's why you haven't seen him break away quite as many runs, because he hasn't been able to get up to speed quite as fast, right? Or even get into his top-end speed because he's beat up on his feet. Well, you let him get healthy. You let him take time to recover. Now, all of a sudden, he's back to that big play explosive, what he was beforehand. And let's make no bones about it. As high as I am on Oregon, this Oregon team is 2 special teams touchdowns away from losing at home to this Boise State team.
It's fair.
So to think that they can't beat anyone is crazy to me. Then when you look at the UNLV team, again, you took a pretty darn good Syracuse team down to the wire. You have a fairly decent quarterback in Haj Malik Williams who can throw the football, but his added element in the +1 run game and his running ability is going to be a big deal. You also have Odom back there running that defense. They'll come in and they'll smack you in the mouth. They did a good job of limiting Jeanty in the first game. So if UNLV is able to pull off the upset here, why couldn't they find a way to win a football game? Again, it's going to be matchup based. But if they get the right matchup, yes, I think that either of these teams could win that game. And to be honest with you, I think if Boise State wins this game and Clemson beats SMU, Boise State won't be the 4. They'll be the 3.
Ooh, it's a hot take, Will, but I like it, and I see where you're going. I can see the world in which that happens. All right, I'd love to continue debating this, but we're up against it. We got to get to a Jeff Russ Sports update. We'll have a little Blazers seggy when we come back. They're facing off against the Utah Jazz at Moda. That's coming up here on a Schulte and Will edition of Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan. But first, Rusty with Sports Center.
This is Big Ten Championship Week with Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Big Ten Championship game is finally here. Mañana por la noche. Number 1 Oregon facing number 3 Penn State in Indianapolis. The Ducks are 3.5-point favorites. 5 o'clock kick on CBS. Live coverage here on The Fan starts with Ducks Game Day at 1 o'clock with Dirt, Dusty, and Anthony Newman. Number 20 UNLV at Albertson Stadium to face number 10 Boise State for the Mountain West Championship this evening. That's a 5 o'clock kick on Fox. And also tonight, Tulane in West Point facing number 24 Army for the American Athletic Championship. That one's 5 o'clock on ABC. The Trailblazers are back in action tonight hosting the Jazz. 7 o'clock tip on K2 Channel 2.2 and Xfinity Channel 302. Donovan Klingon, Robert Williams III, Matisse Thybulle, all out. Scoot Henderson is questionable with a quad contusion. The Blazers are 2.5-point favorites. And the Portland Pilots in Ohio to take on the Golden Flashes of Kent State. 4 o'clock tip on ESPN+. Swag will have your coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starting at 3:30. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's The Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Auto Action.
All right, I had to slip in a couple of minutes of talk about the Portland Trail Blazers, not because I'm like super happy with what they're doing or their progress this season, but I'm still kind of upset at them, and I feel like I'm still watching a team that's sitting on the fence, not really sure what they want to do with this season. We all know why, because Chauncey's in a reportedly quote-unquote lame duck year. We don't know that officially yet, but he is coaching to try and interview for jobs with other teams, more likely than not next summer. At least he started to play some of the young guys. We have seen some better shooting performances from the Portland Trail Blazers as they host the Utah Jazz tonight, I believe, for the first time all season favored, this time by 2.5. They're 8-14 so far. And I guess it's worth pointing out that Danny Avdia's had a nice recent surgence. Looked pretty anemic when he started in Portland, but he's getting a lot more comfortable over his last 10 games, averaging almost 15 points, shooting over 40% from three. Shaedon Sharpe, since he's coming back from injury, playing well. Not quite shooting threes very well, actually still at like a 28% clip, but David McKay throwing out some stats on X, some eye-popping ones, saying that Shaedon almost 66% from shots within 5 feet and 75% on shots at the rim. So when Shaedon attacks the basket, he's successful. Sucks not to see Donovan Clingan playing right now, though. Obviously, Robert Williams III, you'd like him to be on the floor, see if he could increase his trade value. But then also, you wonder why the hell they haven't traded Ant Simons. So just a bunch of different questions going on in my head, Will, about the Blazers as they host the Utah Jazz tonight. They are 8-14, 6 games off the worst record in the league, which belongs to the Washington Wizards with 2 wins.
Need to pump those numbers up. Need more losses. Need more losses.
I hate that we're sitting on the fence here, Will. Have you watched any of these Blazers games the last week, and are you at least impressed by what the young guys are doing? I'm not saying this is a good team yet, but the young guys, and like Denny Avdia, have shown some semblance of talent.
I'm happy with what Donovan Clingan's been putting out there. I mean,
Yeah.
I would like his endurance to be higher. Obviously, he's dealing with his knee issue right now, and frankly, let him sit out. I know that they said in 2 weeks they're going to reevaluate. Sit him out to 3. Give him time. He should feel no pressure to come back. I don't need him back anytime soon. I liked what he showed before. I'd like him, if he can come back in 4, I don't need him back until 6 then. Take your time, come back. I'd like you to, when you come back, show signs that you can improve from where you were, but I was happy. Tumani Kumara, I've been very impressed with what he's doing. His
Agreed.
size, his length, his ability to play defense, and his want to play defense.
He's like a Nick Batum.
He can guard a bunch of different positions. Great. That's a young piece. Awesome. Shaedon Sharpe, seems like he's been doing okay. There's some things that he needs to improve on. But at the end of the day, all I really care about are, can the young guys show signs of life? It feels like Denny Avdia is going to be a part of your long-term plans. Can he show signs of life? It looks like, maybe Scoot isn't quite what you thought. But can he still be a serviceable player for you? Can he become a role player? Can he become a key contributor off the bench? If he can do that, that's fantastic. He fills a role. Now, you haven't gotten to the point yet where it feels like you've found your true organizational redefiner, right? Like early in the 2000s, you found Roy and Aldridge. Obviously, in the 2010s, you found Damian Lillard, right? So there's your piece that you built around. You don't have that person yet. You need to find them in the draft. You have to hope and trust that Joe Cronin and his crew can find that person. But when it comes to this year, I kind of like what you've been doing. You've won a couple games that you weren't supposed to, so it shows me that you have some life. You've shown from the young guys key signs of improvement, at least on the ones that you think that you can build a franchise around. Now, just keep losing. It looks like it's going to be a good draft class. There seems to be a person that everyone wants because he is a generational type player.
Ah, yes, Ace Bailey.
Yes. Hey, I'm going to be honest right now. I positioned myself at a certain restaurant just so that I could watch the Kansas
good for
Blue
you.
Devil game.
Yeah, you got to do that sometimes.
I wanted to make sure that I got to see Cooper Flag while I had a little bit of Buffalo Trace. It seemed like an important thing for me. So continue to lose.
Yep.
But lose in the right way.
Yeah, I agree with you. It sucks because I want this team to lose, but I'm still kind of excited when I see the young guys do well. Trying to watch the Blazers right now just kind of splits me down the middle. I got to see this franchise actually pick a direction, and that direction needs to be getting the best talent in this NBA draft upcoming in 2025 that they possibly can. But Blazers hosting the Jazz tonight. They are favorites. I think I'm going to stay away from them being favorites, to be honest, not betting on that one. But that's about all the time we have for our little Blazers seggy. Will and I got to finish it up for the week. Coming up next, we'll let you know who we're betting on tonight and this weekend. It's 2:48 on The Fan.
For a Blazers report on The Fan, the inside story on the Portland Trailblazers. Brought to you by Aztec Willie's Taqueria.
Well, the Trailblazers indeed back at it tonight, hosting the Jazz. 7 o'clock tip on K2 Channel 2.2 and at Xfinity Channel 302. Donovan Clingan, Bob Williams III, Matisse Seibel, they're all out. Scoot Henderson questionable with a quad contusion. Nor Jordan Clarkson or Kyle Filipowski for Utah. The Blazers 8-14 on the season, 7th worst in the league and 3rd worst record in the West. Those Jazz are 3.5 games behind Portland in the conference. Portland alternates home and road games for their next 6. Hosting the Jazz, at the Lakers, hosting the Spurs, at the Suns, host the Nuggets, and then at the Spurs. And Portland enters the game as a favorite for the first time this season, as you heard Jordan say. This Trailblazers report on The Fan brought to you by Aztec Willie's Taqueria, the best place to go before and after games or any event. Check them out on the corner of Southeast 15th and Broadway or at AztecWillies.com.
Aztec Willie's Taqueria has been Portland's destination for homestyle Mexican food for 30
Fan.
All right, I like to finish up every show that I do with a segment called My Daily DGen Picks. I give a lean of the day and a lock of the day. So Will and I are going to each give a lean and a lock of the day. Will, my lean of the day is Atlanta over the Lakers tonight, minus 5.5 points. So I believe they're going to beat the Lakers by 6. Atlanta running a 5-game winning streak. The Lakers have sucked lately. LeBron questionable for tonight at this point and not really shooting well when they're healthy on the court. I say that Atlanta's going to cover 5.5 versus the Lakers tonight. What's your lean of the day, Will?
I got Boise State minus 4. Every single time I look at the weather report, it just gets colder and colder and colder. Yesterday was supposed to be 39 degrees. According to the YouTube chat, it sounds like it's already below freezing. Looks like it's already in the 20s right now. AccuWeather, quit lying to me. I love
the
that.
truth.
The colder that it gets, the better for the Broncos. I love the Broncos minus 4.
My lock of the day, I've been talking about it all day. Oregon minus 3.5 over Penn State. I believe they're going to win by like 10. I've been hammering it, putting half my penny account balance on there, responsibly, of course, but Oregon minus 3.5 over Penn State.
Get up early tomorrow. Arizona State minus 2.5 against Iowa State. Congratulations to Iowa State on a great year. Unfortunately, you fall short to the great Dilly Dilly.
Oh, Dilly Dilly. Pay that man his money. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Danny and Dusty. Thank you so much to Jeff Rust. Appreciate you, brother, for doing all the heavy lifting. You're making us sound really good. Thank you, Will Ortner, for co-hosting with me. Love it every time, brother. Appreciate
It's always
you.
a great time.
It is. Coming up next, it's 4 hours of power from their mouths to your ears. Prime time with Isaac and Suk. Coming up on 1080 The Fan. Have a great weekend, everybody. Go Ducks!
See ya.
Concrete jungle, wet dream tomato.
So, how's your research going?
Surprising. After I figured out the top-rated TVs in our price range, I went shopping for deals.
And who's the best?
It wasn't the internet, and it wasn't